What's up, you guys out there? Just letting you guys know before this episode starts, we got everything tagged bag ready to go. Unfortunately, when the Force Unscripted first entered the chat, we weren't recording, unfortunately. But just to catch you up to speed, we were talking about the Bad Batch, the first 3 episodes. And then we kind of just ramp it up. You guys will hear all that and the rest of it as the episode progresses. But just a little, just a little catch up for when you guys get to that part. Enjoy the rest of the episode. See you on the other side. What up, everybody? I am your host, JP, and this is my co-host, Josh.
Hey, everybody.
And welcome, all you Star Wars fans, to another episode of the FilmBros podcast. What's going on, everybody? We are back to not only talk about all things Star Wars, have open conversation. If you guys haven't heard our previous episode already, it's out right now. We have another collab coming at you with the same team. We have our first one out already. Josh, today is going to be a different kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had that conversation about the prequels. We're jumping in now to the original trilogy, which in some cases, the original trilogy is not an original trilogy to you. The original trilogy, at least to you, would, in my opinion, be the prequel trilogy. And then, the old classic, old fart movies would be the OG trilogy.
Is that how that works? I don't think so.
I think, obviously, for everybody to know, but from different ages and eras.
Era-wise,
you'd probably be sequels.
Yeah, I'd be sequels. I would have aged out by the time the third one came out.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I'm a prequel kind of person.
Yeah. So my original trilogy is the sequels, but I mean that's not what we call them. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Era-wise, the sequels would be my trilogy.
Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, that makes more sense. But we do have like this little bit of a, how do you say, weird age gap. Both of us, right? A weird age gap between the prequels to the OG to the sequel. There's big gaps in between all of them.
Yeah.
The OG, let's just be honest, it's old. It's old, right? Clearly, people feel different, and good thing that we got the collab in the works right now, where we're bringing back the Force Unscripted to discuss the original trilogy, the gripes, and we're going to go ahead and break down a little bit. I know we're going to save a lot of the big topic for the sequel, but how Disney's influence has kind of, in my opinion, seeped into the original trilogy and where we're going to see that going, and, kind of the conversation that we had with our older episode. Last plug from the beginning time. Josh, let them know where they can listen to that first episode where we talk about the prequel trilogy. If they have any movies that they want us to review, if they want to talk to us, give us topics to discuss, catch a live one of these days, or support us in a big way, go ahead.
You can listen to us anywhere you get a podcast, at FilmBros Podcast, Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts. We're on a bunch of sites. You can check us out there. Follow our socials, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at FilmBros Podcast. You get us up there for any news or movies you want us to cover. You can be a part of the conversation. Twitch at FilmBros Podcast. We'll be going live again soon. I promise. Just keep notifications on to be part of the conversation. And then you can subscribe to our YouTube at FilmBros Podcast.
And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this conversation with the Force Unscripted.
Like, even though the sequels aren't my favorite, at the end of the day, it's still Star Wars, and that's enough for me.
Yeah. I fucking, yeah. Especially the Bad Batch. At first I was kind of like, oh man, they're making a show about clones and stuff like that. Like, didn't we just get that with the Clone Wars? Why are we gonna redo this again? And then I was just like, you know what? I'm just happy that, honestly, I feel at least the Clone Wars and the animated stuff, you can get more closer to like that, what George Lucas wanted, that population of aliens everywhere, like just feeling like, like actual Star Wars. I really like when, we get those animated stuff.
Yeah, I'm super excited for the live action one that's coming out though. Acolyte, that one I'm really pumped for.
Me too. I got a lot of downers in like the comments and shit like that. So I'm just like, I wonder how good this show's gonna actually do. If there's some behind the scenes stuff that really makes you think like, oh man, this show might be torn to shreds for sure. And I'm
Possibly,
sad
but-
about that because it's set in the High Republic, and I'm just like, that's what I've been like aching for. I've been wanting like stories out of that like era, and it just sounds like it sounds like it's gonna be a very divisive show.
I just want my live action Wookiee Jedi.
Oh yeah, when that happens, that's gonna be. I hope it looks as good like as we think it's gonna look. Honestly, because I mean, when was the last time we seen a live action Wookiee that wasn't Chewbacca, like Revenge of the Sith or something like that, when we had like all those suits and everything. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Disney has it in them. We'll have to wait and see. That was gonna be a good one for sure.
All right, the other fuckers here. What's up, Winshi?
What's up, fucker?
What up, Winchie?
Did you get
Not
your
much.
coffee?
Got my coffee.
Coffee.
You're late. You're making us look bad.
Damn.
I joined at exactly 2:00.
Look, you're lucky these guys like us. All right, I'd be pissed at you.
I joined at exactly 2:00.
Well, if you're on time, you're late.
Oh,
Well,
that one. That you know, only elite employees will understand that. So, I just been kind of we've been discussing the Bad Batch just a little bit. Winchie, how do you feel about the Bad Batch?
I don't think he's watched it yet.
I'm like halfway through season 2. I'm not
I haven't
actually
gotten
fully
into it
caught
yet.
up.
Oh no, both of you guys have it. No. Well, you're caught up. You Josh, you've seen. You just need to see season
oh
3.
yeah, season 3.
Yeah. But Winchie's barely starting to watch. What happened?
I'm halfway through season 2.
That's barely starting. Fuck you.
Shit.
But like, why? What happened? What put you off for so long?
I have like 10 million anime shows.
Okay,
to
no.
watch.
So one time, like I asked him once, like, what anime do you watch? And he goes, all of them. And I thought he was bullshitting. And then I sat behind him for an hour, and he actually watches like all concurrent animes, like actually, all of them.
Oh, damn, that's a lot of
Yeah.
anime.
Yeah.
That's a Josh. You watch anime?
Hell
do you watch?
yeah.
Do you consume that much?
I don't think I consume that many. I consume the popular ones, if I'm being honest. That's about it.
Yeah,
I went away for a weekend, and you know like when you open a lot of tabs in a browser, like it shrinks all the little boxes at the top, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it stopped shrinking the boxes, and I had to scroll through them. Like it just like got so many episodes spread out on my tabs that I literally had to scroll to see them all.
damn.
So yeah, I just if I miss a couple days, like I'm just hoed. So
Oh.
I keep up with that stuff. And then if there's like a lull, there's like the new season's starting and only like a couple shows are coming out. I'm like, oh, let me watch something else.
Damn.
So I'll catch up with Bad Batch here soon. I think we're gonna do an episode about it anyway, so I gotta binge it one day here shortly. But I'll do it on like a Tuesday because that's when there's only like one anime episode that I watch.
Yeah. Okay. Is there do you feel like the Bad Batch is like a struggle to get through or something, or?
A struggle. I just like didn't really resonate with any of the characters all that much.
Oh, okay, so this is kind of like an unnecessary show for you.
Yeah, it's kind of the same when I like first started Rebels. Like Rebels kind of felt like a slog to me because I just didn't really like none of the characters were from the movies or anything, so I had no connection to them, etc. Like eventually I did end up finishing it and whatnot because I do love Star Wars, so I do watch all the content, but it's just not like, oh, this is a show about like Anakin and them and the Clone Wars, like that's cool. and Cody that we saw in the movies and whatnot. It was just a group of randos, right? I mean, they're like, they show up a couple episodes in the Clone Wars, but for the most part, they're just like a worse version of the null arcs from the books.
Oh, so
And
from what we got already.
yeah,
Oh, I
Yeah,
I kind of understand that too, because I know a lot of people, because he's even, oh damn, I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but a lot of people were liking that Scorch, part of the commandos and everything, and like they were finally being shown, and they were just like, wow, we traded the commandos for the Bad Batch, like they kind of feel like there's like some kind of cheat, they've been cheated, like when you already have like pre-established good characters that people like, that would have liked to see them adapted, and you just are like, well, we're gonna put season 7 of the Clone Wars out, and 2 of them are gonna be a backdoor pilot for the Bad Batch.
exactly. And like we already had a video game about like Delta Squad. They're canon because they were in Clone Wars. Like, why not? Like it's perfectly fine to focus on an established group of characters.
Yeah, give the people
y'all are too
what they
fucking
want.
critical. Cause I saw a record and I fell in love like immediately.
Well,
Cause there was no like okay, so like in Ed,
Yeah.
Ed and Eddie, like my favorite character was Ed because he was just dumb. Like, and Star Wars has never really had like a dumb character. Like Jar Jar was goofy, but not the same way that Wrecker is like stupid. Like, and I just love that. I'm sorry, I fell in love with Wrecker.
yeah, I like Wrecker too. Like I said, I love them as characters, but I would have never thought they would have carried a show. Like I would have
Yeah.
never been like, yeah, let's give them their own show. I probably would have rather, in the episodes that they were in, would have rather known what the fuck they do on that one planet where they're doing these weird droids and all that shit than more, than the Bad Batch. But and then I guess having Echo, a clone of of Jango Fett, but female in there. I mean, I guess that was cool, but at the same time, I was like, her voice is kind of annoying. So it,
I guess I see the point though, because I feel like, and slight spoilers for you, when I feel like this is going to be very important for making Rise of Skywalker make sense, and I think that's why they're doing it.
Yep.
Yeah, that
And-
was my first theory.
And you know what? Everybody, the Force Unscripted. We've been recording this whole time.
I'm so sorry about the.
No, you're good.
Oops.
No, don't worry about it. We'll go ahead and we'll fix it up. Don't worry. We'll jump it off from right here. We're gonna get to all that. We're gonna talk about the Disney influence within Star Wars. We're gonna touch up on it because we're starting to see it heavy-handed now within the OG trilogy, because we are talking about the OG trilogy today. One more time, because I wasn't recording at the time where you kind of let us know your guys' endeavors, but if you want to let the people know what you guys have been up to since the last time we spoke with you guys, and anything new that's happening, and after that we'll jump into this whole original trilogy talk.
All right, sounds good. So basically we've rolled out our second season for the Force Unscripted. We've been doing a lot more interactive things with not only viewers but other Star Wars content creators. We've gotten to do some collaborations with some different podcasts like you guys, which we're very thankful that you have us on your show. We've been doing segments called Force Facts, which drop every Tuesday, which basically we kind of each of us give our own little Force fact and we talk about it, kind of goof around for a little bit. And then, as I mentioned, we have other Star Wars content creators. We have an episode that's going to be releasing on this coming Monday, the 26th, with Rampage Reviews, who does Star Wars book reviews. And so we're talking about Darth Bane in that one. And then, we've just been like developing our bonus episodes that we release with every main episode, where we each have our own little segment. Mine is Fuck, Marry, Kill. When She's is 20 questions. And then our the co-host Exotic, he chose to do like a this or that type of thing, which got kind of wild for a little bit. To give you like a small spoiler, my this or that was basically, would you rather stick your legs in the lava on Mustafar and have them burned off, or go down on a hut? So we have a lot of fun. It's been a great, yeah, it's been a great start to our season. Exactly. Okay, I'm curious though. What would you guys say?
I'd say living in the Star Wars universe is wacky as hell.
Robotics limbs can be made. I think.
I gotta ask the question: am I rich enough to get robotic legs afterwards, or am I just gonna have like
why don't you
burnt
steal them
legs?
off somebody?
Oh yeah.
You're like, you can use no more.
But how are you gonna get to them in crutches?
Yeah,
You're gonna have to be real agile with them things.
Nikita is the only person who chose to go down on a hut.
Yeah, because I even said, like, I'm a bitch when it comes to pain. I do not want to go through having to stick my own legs in lava and feel them burn off. Like, I can get the taste of a hut out of my mouth. I can't get my original legs back. I don't care about prosthetics
robotic
or what.
legs go hard, though.
Yeah.
Like, look at Darth Maul.
He
had 8 of them at one time.
You're going to eat the whole hut, but Dussy? What are you doing here?
I'm down bad. I've never denied that. I'm down bad, okay? I want my legs, though. I want my original legs. But yeah, the second season's been great so far. We've had a great time. We're happy to be back on FilmBros, so we're excited to talk about the OG trilogy this episode.
Okay, yes, sir. Go check that out. I mean, going down on a hut is insane. So is insane. So go check that out. But first things first, obviously, it's a tradition here that we go down. No pun intended. We go down first with looking at the Rotten Tomato scores, how those kind of are kind of like the measurements we go by here at the FilmBros podcast, just so we can measure where everybody's thoughts were at. We have the 3 original trilogies. We have Star Wars, which at the time in 1977 it was just Star Wars: A New Hope, but obviously as time went on, George Lucas expanded. It wound up being dubbed the original trilogy. A New Hope became episode 4 in the saga, and stars Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, directed by George Lucas. He directed the very first Star Wars film. That one comes in with a 93% fresh on the tomato meter with a 96% audience score. Now, I personally think that obviously Rotten Tomatoes wasn't around at the time. So these scores are, in my opinion, just pure nostalgia from whoever written these scores, got the critics, whatever. So I really don't go by Rotten Tomatoes when it comes to like these older movies myself personally. But I mean, I will also say I think these scores are a little too high on both sides. But Josh, what do you think?
I think it's fine. I think this one's a classic. And yeah, it probably is all nostalgia from, everybody who has access to a Rotten Tomatoes account. But I would assume it's a fine scoring. Like, there's no complaining about it.
Okay.
I think it makes sense.
What about you guys, Nikita, Winchy?
Yeah, I immediately when I saw the scores, I was like, Rotten Tomatoes did not exist, so it's very skewed. I'd say all of the scores are probably a little less like back then than they are, with the nostalgia factor filtered in. But like from what we see right now, I could probably see that like like they were probably all just maybe like 10% lower than this or something like that, but probably around the same like ratio wise, where A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back are pretty close, and then Return of the Jedi is like a little bit lower. Maybe people don't always like the ending of things if it doesn't end the way that they envisioned in their mind that it would end, especially when you find out that Luke and Leia are siblings and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I don't think the distribution here is too crazy.
Okay. What about
I'm of the same mind on that. I although personally I prefer 6 to 4. So I would like it. Like I think that like I think they're okay. Like I definitely like that 5 is the highest rated of the 3. But yeah, probably I'd say like somewhere in the mid 80s for all of them when they released. Probably just a little bit lower than what the score is here.
Yeah,
but still pretty accurate.
Okay.
Like I think what you said, like you like 6 more than 4, but I think if we went back to like when 4 was released, right? It was like really one of the first movies to do this kind of like
You don't know that.
I mean, okay, it pioneered a lot of the sci-fi genre that we know today. So I think a lot of people enjoy, since it was the first one, people were going to enjoy it a lot. Whereas the third one, they've kind of established that, okay, Star Wars is a thing now. We have high expectations for it. This is like a general audience, not for someone that like you that's a super fan, but not quite as super of a fan as me.
Damn.
That's fuck. You don't have to mention that. It's fucked up.
Yeah. That was like the greatest backhanded compliment
that
I've
was like
ever
a
heard in
real
my
dig.
life.
What the fuck?
Hey, daggers from Winchy over here, man. Just throwing daggers.
You get born on Star Wars Day, and all of a sudden you think it makes you an auto fan. Fuck you,
It
Winchy.
does.
By default, bro. By default, like at that point, like anybody else who's born any other time of the year is like optional. But by default, if you're born on Star Wars Day, you're a Star Wars fan.
Think about it, like we're having an argument and you're like, oh yeah, I'm better, I know Star Wars more than you, I'm a bigger fan than you. I'm like, when's your birthday? When's your
That's
birthday?
cheating. That's cheating.
I came out the womb
Yeah.
a Star Wars fan.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that would have solidified him if he could have grew a lightsaber in there too, but you can't, obviously. That just be impossible.
Hey, you don't know.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It just glows green when he pops out. That'd be insane. The doctor's just like, what the fuck? What the fuck is that? How'd that come out? So episode 5, obviously, it did take a leap. When she brought up a good point, or I don't even know who brought it up, but so one of you guys brought up a good point that that by Return of the Jedi, it became an expectation by that Star Wars is a brand. Star Wars is something that we're beginning to understand that it's going to be around here. We got a curveball with Leia and Luke being siblings out of nowhere, right? Or by Return of the Jedi, we got that curveball because in Empire Strikes Back, they do something that a lot of people still think to this day is questionable. So Return of the Jedi did come in slightly lower with an 83 and a 94% audience score. Like I said, I think nostalgia factor has a lot to play into when it comes down to these scores. So maybe 10%, maybe 15%. I can't really pinpoint that. But something I did want to bring up before we dive even deeper into these OG trilogies, I wanted to know if you guys heard about. We couldn't bring it up last time we talked because it wasn't out yet. But the Phantom Menace making a return to theaters for its 25th anniversary.
Yeah, I think Nikita got invited on a date to go see it.
Oh,
I
Hey,
did.
man.
It
There
was
you go.
great. I'm excited. I'm super excited. Because that was the one of the.
I don't judge, but what's his name? I mean,
Oh,
her.
oh.
Just say.
do I give off the homosexual vibes? Am I a gay man?
Straight up stumped him with that.
The answer
I
is yes.
I was not expecting that.
He said,
Her name's Amanda though. Oh yeah, you caught me dead in my tracks.
Oh,
But I'm
sorry.
excited because this was the only one from the prequel trilogy that I did not see in theaters. So I'm excited to actually finally get to see it on the big screen.
Very nice. Yeah, that me as well. I think I was only like 4, so this is one of the ones that I was just like, oh fuck. Last year we went to go watch Return of the Jedi
Yeah.
when it was back in theaters.
Mhm.
So I know me and Josh are gonna obviously go
this
to
is
this
the plan.
one.
I want to be able to see all of them in my lifetime in theaters. So this is the plan.
Yeah, Winchy, what
And
about
Duel-
you? Do
Duel
you
of
got a
the-
date or?
I have a wife, so I mean, yeah.
Okay, very good.
But I mean, hearing Duel of the Fates in theaters definitely. I'm already
sick.
getting goosebumps thinking about hearing it in the theaters. So I mean, I'd be down. I'd be hella down.
And just to make sure you weren't like, were you born around the time where you could have watched this as a child to in theaters or?
You would have been 2.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, no, never mind. Never mind. Yeah, just
I didn't start watching Star Wars like movies until I was like 4 or 5 with my grandpa.
And see, that was how old I was when this came out. I think I was 3 turning 4, something like that.
Yeah, I was 3 turning 4 as well. Yeah.
Damn. I wasn't even born yet. Like,
No. So, you weren't thought of yet
No, I wasn't even
at all
born.
whatsoever. So I mean that's gonna be exciting. So if anybody's out there that was wondering if another Star Wars movie was gonna come out, because we did talk about it last year and how honestly our theater was just fucking going crazy when Anakin came out, when the finale was happening, the whole Jabba the Hutt scene. I think somebody barked at the screen when Leia was up there at
That
one
shit was
point.
hilarious.
So we talked about our experience. So whoever's trying to have some kind of experience like that, hopefully your theater's not boring. Go check it out. Episode 1 coming out pretty soon. So the original trilogy birthing such excitement, like obviously Star Wars fans, like all of us, and people that are gonna go watch the Phantom Menace and are gonna watch these movies in theaters and are birthing fans to different spin-offs and all that stuff. How did we feel, Nikita, if you want to start us off, how did we feel about, let's start with A New Hope, just so we can differentiate what we're talking about. How'd you feel about that film when you first watched it? Obviously, by the time you probably got around to it, it was, dated. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but, the facts are there. How'd you feel? What was your expectation when you first watched it, and then when you walked out of it, how did you feel about it?
So I actually watched the prequels before. So when I went into 4, I was like already on like my Star Wars hype. And so when I was watching it, I actually hated it the first time because I think I was like 11, and I was like, this is so slow. Like what's going on? Like this is like not what I thought I was going to see. And then like by the end of it, I was like, okay, like I guess the whole space fight combat was pretty cool, but I was really like nonplussed by the movie the first time I saw it. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. All right. And so, it obviously being made back in 1977? What was that an issue for you? Did it? What was that? What was the?
I
Right,
think
for
so,
pros.
honestly, because it just like it didn't look like the prequels, and so this is what I was like I was thinking like, oh, if this happens after, like, because I was a kid, right? I was like, oh, if this happens after, it's gonna be a lot cooler than the first 3 movies that I just saw, but it was not. I was like, this looks kind of bad. The scene transitions are really cheesy. I mean, they were cheesy in the prequels too, but like it was like. I don't know. I guess I just had like this expectation as like this little 11-year-old kid, and it did not live up to it. It wasn't until I like got to high school and went back and watched the original trilogy that like I actually really appreciated it. Like I think I was too young to appreciate it when I watched them through the first time as a kid.
That makes sense, especially coming off the high of the third one, to watch something that dated. I think it really kills the mood if you're watching it like chronologically.
Yeah, because I was waiting for like the Obi-Wan Darth Vader, scene to like pop off. Like I was expecting like, oh, this is their rematch, right? They're gonna go ham again. And I was like, this is the most boring saber stick fight I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, 2 old men waving their sticks around. This is insane.
Okay. All right.
See enough of that at the gym every week.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Oh my god.
Jesus. What about you, Winchie? What was, walking into it? How did you? Was this the first movie that you saw? Did you lead up to it chronologically? And what are the pros and cons of this film for you?
So I watched the original trilogy with my grandfather when I was like 4 or 5. I don't really remember much of it. I do remember like sitting there watching, but I don't actually remember like how I felt about it or anything. But I did start in like the traditional 4, 5, 6, and then go back to 1, 2, 3. I don't know. What year did 3 come out again? I may not have even been.
3 came out in 2005.
Oh, so yeah, I watched some of those in theaters then. The first go around. So yeah, I was in love with Star Wars from the beginning. I had no concept of like what was, good CGI or anything like that, fast-paced fights. Like I went in not knowing anything. My mom had told my grandpa not to let me watch Star Wars, and then when she was at work one day, we watched them like 4 times in a row. Because my grandpa was cool. And yeah, I mean, I fell in love with Star Wars. I've loved it since the beginning. So I like I said, I don't have memories of actually watching them the first time. I just know that I loved watching them, and then I rewatched them like many times over the years.
Yeah. Oh,
So
okay. So you're like me, because I used to watch them a lot. I remember having the VHS pack, and I would just pop them in and just watch them. But I never really understood what was happening. So when did you have that enlightenment? I think I was like 10 when I watched it, and I was finally like understanding what these movies were doing. Them being old really kind of took me a second. I knew that I liked it because the lightsabers and the blaster stuff, and it was cheesy and everything growing up. But when you had that, I guess when it kind of clicked in your brain, like these movies are telling a story and whatnot.
so I probably watched. It was probably around the time that the Revenge of the Sith came out, because like I really liked the Attack of the Clones. At that point, I loved the clones when I was a kid. I mean, I still do. But it was probably around Revenge of the Sith where like things started to kind of click for me, because I remember being like 8ish, 7, 8, and not really liking the design of the Phase 2 clone troopers. I preferred the Phase 1. So I was like collecting action figures and whatnot of the Phase 1 clone troopers. So I think probably around 7 or 8 is when I first like remember really like diving into it and actually started reading the books and whatnot.
Okay.
So like Revenge of the Sith came out is probably around when I actually started like really like paying attention and remembering the things that I was watching. And I probably went back and like immediately after we saw Revenge of the Sith in theaters, I probably rewatched the whole OG trilogy, just so I could like. I probably went straight from the theaters, and I told my mom, I was like, "You got to play the rest. We gotta watch the whole thing." I'm sure we watched it at home after that.
Okay. All right. That's pretty. And the pros and cons for that film. I mean, obviously it's dated. There's issues with it. Watching it now. What are the pros and cons of the film for you?
Pros. I love space dogfights. I love starfighters. So I really enjoy the first attack on the attack on the first Death Star. Cons. I didn't really love like Luke's voice and um like his personality at the beginning.
Okay.
I think he was like a little annoying, and I more gravitated like to liking Han, and some of the other like starfighter pilots that you see towards the end,
Mm-hmm.
just because they're a little more mature, and I preferred not to hang around childish people even when I was younger. So I think Luke was just a little annoying at the beginning, but I loved the droids. I loved R2D2. They kind of they kind of kept it going for me. I thought the stormtroopers were cool, but they were the bad guys. So I mean, you can't like the bad guys. It wasn't until I got older that I was like, man, stormtroopers are sometimes kind of cool as well. But
When they're not hitting fucking blast doors and with their head and getting thrown off places,
you
shot
have to
up.
have some comedic relief, right? Like we came from Roger Roger to that, so like you got to have some amount of funny going on, right? Like the droids were great in the sequel or prequel trilogy.
Yes, but we got to
The
remember
B1.
that those came out after.
I know they came out
Yeah,
after,
yeah.
but like at the time like that I was rewatching them and like really comprehending what was going on.
Oh, the
I was
poetry.
coming from I was coming from the prequel trilogy at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
I had already loved Star Wars because I watched the OG as a younger kid, but when I was really like falling in love with Star Wars more and like reading the books and wanting like the action figures and everything, that was post prequel trilogy release. So I like the droids. The clone troopers I thought were cool, but obviously not the best shots. But even younger me didn't really understand that, because obviously the hero wins. So how could the bad guys hit them with their bullets? It just made sense to a younger me.
Okay, because I will even say, but me coming off the prequel trilogy, because when a new Star Wars movie comes out, I would say it's like a tradition that I watch all these Star Wars movies at least once a year. I literally, like, that's how much I love Star Wars. Like, I will make time just to do this. And even me watching the prequel trilogies, like, at least without the context of the Clone Wars, the animated show, it they don't. I don't think the droids have that, like, silliness to them that the stormtroopers in the OG trilogy have. I feel like the stormtroopers are completely silly in live action, where the droids in the sequel, at least in Attack of the Clones and in Revenge of the Sith, were just kind of, they made jokes here and there, but they weren't like they weren't heavy handed like in the animated show.
Yeah, again, but like in Revenge of the Sith, I think they were a little more personal. Like they had a little more personality than they did in the other two. And again, like that was kind of when I started remembering things. So I was kind of going off the personalities they had in the Revenge of the Sith. Like for instance, on Grievous's capital ship there at the beginning, like they have some funny lines and whatnot back and forth with him. I think a couple of the ones later, like that Obi-Wan cuts down and whatnot, also have some fun lines.
Controversial. I think the fourth one is boring. I think it's too dated. I it's probably the one I dread visiting the most. I think it's
A New Hope?
boring. Yep.
That?
Yep.
Okay. So you're just gonna come out swinging, but like, what makes you say that, though?
What do you mean? I feel like yes, it's the first start to the story and everything like that, but the first start to the story, I start chronologically, so we already picking up the pace from the first one and onward.
And when you hit that fourth one,
I think to come from the highest high and then just have to start the roller coaster again, it's like this one does a bad way of interjecting the story. And I know you could totally be like, oh, we'll start from the fourth one. Well, why would I want to start on the most boring one? So I feel like I suffer either way, but this one ain't for me. Like, it's good, and it's fine, and I'll watch it, but, man, it feels like a tough time to get through.
Now, is that because it's, and maybe this is a question for everybody, maybe we can start with Winchy. Do we think that that's because, or maybe you can answer it first since this is your thing. Do you think that's because it has that issue where you started, when you start off to a trilogy, you got to start at the bottom and make your climb up. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're in a saga already, like Fast and the Furious, it's a bad example for a franchise, but it is a franchise nonetheless. They can just pick up where they left off and just on go the whole time. Whereas Phantom Menace, you have that build up, you get to that peak, and then you're doing it all over again with 4 through 6.
I would say it's probably the way you start.
It's the structuring. So you think that George Lucas starting from the OG and doing the prequel was probably that hiccup in between?
Well, I mean, yeah, but obviously he was limited by the time and his technology. So I understand, that maybe the prequels were probably not an original idea at first until he was like, oh, later down the line or whatever. Because he wouldn't have name dropped the Clone Wars or anything like that in that movie if he didn't have a plan for it down the road. But that's what I'm saying. The prequels were just highest of the high, and then to start again from the fourth one, you're kind of just like, well, I don't, or for me at least, it's more like tough. I think this one's just tough to get through.
Okay, Nikita, what do you think?
I'm kind of the same mind. Like I do actually, like, even in my adulthood, as overall, like, episode 4 is just a fairly boring movie in my opinion. Like it does have its spots where it's like exciting, but exactly what, like, you come off of the prequels and you're like, you see all this amazing fighting in episode 3, And I personally do believe it's best to watch these movies. Not like now that we have the prequel, the original, and the sequel. Like I think it's best to watch them in chronological order, and it's just kind of like a low point when you consider all of the movies. And like what carries it is like it is the first. That's the thing about Episode 4. But once you get past this is the first Star Wars movie ever. Well, I mean, outside of like the escape from the Death Star and the fight before the Death Star and then the blowing up the Death Star. But that's the big points of the movie, and it's just like
it's a stepping stone.
Yeah,
It's like in the grand scheme of the whole Star Wars like saga, it's a stepping stone.
But it's a weird place to put a stepping stone.
Well, yeah, but you still got to step on it. So, because it leads you to the second one. And at least Empire Strikes Back, it's dated and all that, but that one can be carried by story alone. I feel like that's why everybody likes that one.
And that's my favorite of them all.
Empire.
But A New Hope, you don't feel like the story could carry?
No, because like you said, I don't even know where the key points that like, oh, Luke is our hero. He meets Han. He learns to become a Jedi from Ben. They blow up the Death Star, and then leading to the second one.
Okay. Wenchi, do you feel that same sentiment?
Yeah, episode 4 is just like a very like mild beginning to it, like an origin story for Luke. Honestly, like it really only succeeds in setting up the plot. Yeah, there's the big climax with the destruction of the Death Star, which, like I said, is my favorite part with the starfighter battles and whatnot. But the rest of it, I mean, the beginning, like when I rewatched it, if I could skip all the way to like where they're actually getting to the Death Star and then rescuing Leia, I would, because it's just sand.
Yeah, the entire beginning, and then you meet Luke, and he's just like, "We gotta go to Tashi Station," and they like, he can be kind of whiny. Sorry, Mark Hamill, but it's true. And then it picks up. It picks up right when he meets Ben, and then you meet Han Solo, and for me in that movie, I find Han Solo infinitely more interesting, which is crazy for a side character.
Well,
one thing that sorry.
Go ahead, Nikita. Go ahead.
Now, one thing that I will say, I think if like, and of course you can't do this, right? But I think if the original trilogy was like redone today, I think it would probably be like, there's potential to be like a lot better than what it is. There's this thing called SC38 Reimagined. It's a Star Wars YouTube video. Yeah. And is that not like, if you saw that, would you change your mind about how you saw Episode 4, right?
Yeah. Like if it was updated and more modern, and I know they try to do that with the Blu-ray edition or whatever, but that they can only do so much.
Yeah, because it still feels like they're just in front of, like when they're in the spaceship and they're talking and they're supposed to be shooting at things. It just feels like there's a black paper right there. Yeah, it doesn't feel like space.
That's why it's impressive even behind the scenes. Like it's an impressive thing to have happen. It's just it's dated. It's too boring.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, and it's not like, because I seen some people go and say like Revenge of the Sith was like mostly green screen, so if they wanted to, they can easily put a few $1 million and redo it again, kind of thing, the background, and they can easily change it up. But in A New Hope, all that was like paint and what's it called,
scaling and toys and models and shit like that.
Yeah, like fucking just, I guess you could say movie magic type shit.
That's
like
right.
It wasn't CGI or nothing.
That's right. Technologically and behind the scenes, it's a great thing to like look at. Like I've seen behind the scene videos of it all the time. The Millennium Falcon is just this small, and they use camera magic to make it big, and like it's cool to watch. But the movie itself, kind of like, we're talking about the movie. We're not talking about the impressiveness behind the camera. That's what I mean.
Okay. So, and you feel as though even the flair of the story is just not there.
Yeah, no. It's a stepping stone for the next two.
Okay. And this is where we're going to discuss Empire Strikes Back right now, but just to make it a keynote, George Lucas did direct and write this movie solo. But then we move on to Empire Strikes Back, and that's not only written with George Lucas, but it's also written with Irvine Kershner, who also directed the film. with Empire Strikes Back. And a lot of people, I mean, I'll just rip it off like a Band-Aid before you guys get around to it. A lot of people love Empire Strikes Back.
Best sequel ever. Period.
Yeah. See, he just busted. Understand what I'm talking about right now. He just combusted. It's beloved by everybody. Do we feel, before we talk about our own personal experiences, what we like about the film and all that, do we feel, as George Lucas not having 110% control, that Empire Strikes Back was better than A New Hope because of that? Or was it because of, obviously, it being his first movie, different factors, yada, yada, excuse. Winchie?
I think he had, I think he had setup, right? Like, he had a background to work with, and like, with A New Hope, he had to build the story from scratch. He had to come up with the whole story. He had to create the environment, everything. With Empire Strikes Back, he has a little bit of foundation. He's established the bad guys. He's established who the good guys are, and like some of the paths that they might take in the future. And so all he has to do is capitalize on that. Like, bam, Vader's a badass, like busts open, the Hoth base, whatnot. Like, Luke goes off the train, Han gets himself in trouble, etc. Like, he really has like the opportunity to capitalize on the characters that he's only really introduced in A New Hope. So I don't think it was just that like somebody else was helping out. I think he had a solid foundation to work with at that point.
Okay, Nikita?
I mean, like, we called it, a stepping stone, right? So I feel like episode 4 was kind of like the layup, and 5 was the dunk.
Basically.
Okay. And just to be clear on both of your guys' responses before we get to Josh. So we feel as though being directed and having somebody else's hand in there, was it better, or do you feel like it was? It sounds to me like you guys are trying to still credit George Lucas, but I'm trying to figure out if George Lucas was the problem. I mean, we did come off the prequel trilogy, where we kind of discussed it as well. The limitations that George Lucas kind of put on those movies with his writing and whatnot. Do you guys feel as though George Lucas just didn't have the juice for this one, and he needed that helping hand to dunk it?
I think it might just come down to like a matter of capital. Like, he had profits from the first movie, so he could afford to like branch out and bring on some help. I don't know if it's necessarily that, like, because we don't know. We don't know like what it would have been if somebody's hand wasn't in there with him. But like, I feel like it might just be what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever, a matter of like, he got revenue from the first one, and so he could afford to like splurge a little bit,
you can branch out,
to make sure that
hire
An
screenwriters that know what
writer.
they're doing,
Okay.
to help him out.
Like,
So,
I don't know how to fix a pool, so I'm gonna hire the dude to fix the pool for me.
basically, I guess.
That's what I'm trying to.
I don't even think. I don't even.
No, I feel like it's more like he built the pool, but he didn't know how to build a hot tub, so he hired somebody to build the hot tub.
To make it luxurious for people.
I can build
Exactly.
the hot tub. I just need help filling it. There you go. That's how I would put it. Because I think he did fine, but yeah, it's the same way. Like, you get a little bit more money and budget, you can hire people to help you out. He already, like, if you already established the characters and stuff, where you want them to go. I'm gonna have someone on the camera, just let them create my vision, type of deal. I would say directing wise, it's probably not in his hands.
Directing wise, an improvement.
Yeah, I think so.
Not writing wise.
I mean, the movies, they said it themselves.
I guess I can be.
Sequel.
I guess I can be a little controversial. All right, I personally think though George Lucas birthed a great universe, I do firmly believe him not having the greatest background, besides obviously, I'm not taking away the credibility that he gets from, A New Hope and all that stuff, but I'm sure he had other people telling him how to do all that stuff. He birthed the idea, but he's not the person in my head who built it that makes sense. Other people built it. That's why when I was gonna make this point later, but might as well just bring it up. But that's why when that's why I feel like he was so easy to let Disney have it, because I believe he just did not know how to continue this, Star Wars legacy, how to, further it, because he was so limited to just what he first started with. But I honestly believe that he was, I guess, the brains of it all, but there was other workers. I need help building this pool. I have the vision of the pool. I need other people to help me build it. And then so when he got behind the reins in the prequel trilogies, I kind of feel like that's what kind of hurt it a little bit. Is George Lucas, is that if he would have branched out, got actual people to direct it, actual people to put some thought behind it, it would have probably been a little bit different. But then we wouldn't have gotten the campy, cheesy stuff that we got with those films either. So I don't know.
Blasphemy.
That's
Blasphemy.
me. I'm just saying.
I don't agree.
I'm just saying. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, okay, so like with the whole Disney thing, right? Like we're at a point where in like movie, cinema, whatnot, like Marvel's a thing, at this I don't know, where they think whatever. Like movies are coming out that are like massive budgets, have to appeal to like certain audiences. A lot of that audience is a younger generation, and Disney is like the king at appealing to younger generation, right? That's what they do. So I don't think him like passing the reins to Disney was necessarily him saying like I can't do this anymore. I think it was him just handing it to an expert on the audience that he was trying to like push towards. I just don't think he expected them to fuck it up as bad as they did. Then yeah, we can discuss that next time, but like I think we touched on it a little bit, but I think they're kind of reining in some of the stuff that happened with Filoni and whatnot and Favreau. I think they fell under the same kind of trap that some of the like Legends book line fell under, where too many hands were in the pot, and like some of the stuff just like is way off base. We love Legends, like we really do, but there are so many authors and so many things that George Lucas was like, I don't look at Legends, I don't read any of the books, I don't like Legends was crazy. Lucas did not like Legends. So I think he just felt like there was not an opportunity for him to just say, you know what, everything is back to square zero. All this stuff that you guys love is no longer canon or whatnot. If he gives it to Disney and lets them do that, then they take the fall for like the Legends lovers, and then maybe they can make something that really appeals to the younger audience with a big budget, with super awesome visuals and whatnot. I really just, like I said, I don't think he expected them to drop the ball really hard.
Okay, that'll be a conversation for another time. But Josh, you seem to have some kind of contingency on what he said. What's going on here?
Okay. Well, I don't agree about that notion at the end, them fucking it up. I don't agree with that. But he probably has a point. George Lucas probably didn't know how to capitalize, because he had an idea for sequels, but he probably didn't know how to capitalize on it simply because the Marvel universe was kicking off. All these things were kicking off, the DCEU and all that. He probably didn't know how to keep up in the world that he pioneered. So he probably gave it to Disney, thinking Disney had the greatest intentions and whatever. So he sold out to them, and they did what they did with them, regardless of good or bad. I'm not touching up on that. However, I really do believe that he probably just did it because he couldn't carry on anymore.
So
I don't agree with that, because he had a clear idea of what he wanted to do for his sequel trilogy and released like thoughts of it. Like the plan was to like shift it to Leia, make her the main character. Like he released what he wanted his sequel trilogy to be. I just think, honestly, my opinion is I feel like he's just tired of Star Wars. Honestly, like he was tired of his own creation. That's how I felt. I feel like he maybe viewed Star Wars as devolving into something that he didn't want to do. Because like when you meet the fandom, like you're like these are some very interesting weird fuckers.
Oh yeah,
and
bro.
I feel like
But I don't think that whole division didn't start happening until Disney took over.
no.
That's
No,
that's
I
that that's
cap
what,
on that. Nah, cap.
I think no, because the fans really like have it. Now it's getting.
I think it widened the divide, but the divide was always there.
I think the prequels had their own little battles, and I mean, I wasn't there to witness such battles, but I hear it was a big controversial thing to have
But
all
it
the
was
stuff happening.
but
in
that
the
wasn't
prequels.
within the fandom. That was within general audiences.
How?
That was them.
It was both.
They were
It
rejecting.
was hella within the fandom too.
No,
The fandom fights with itself. Like we
they
got contradicting
fight
opinions
with
right
each other,
now.
but it was always something like, oh, this movie kind of sucked, but at least we got Star Wars projects at one point in time. I think when the animated series came out, people hated that shit. The Clone Wars, the one that came out in the theaters, people hated that shit. And they
First
talked
movie.
so much shit about it, but at the same time, they were still happy that something was continuing on. And then when it got to the point where, when things were brewing with Disney and George Lucas and all that stuff, that's when I started seeing that real like gap start coming in. Obviously, people fight with amongst themselves of what's better, what's not better, blah blah blah. blah but
I
it's
think,
still
you know
on
what?
the sandbox.
I want to blame Legends. No, I think all those authors and stuff because I remember reading some books too.
That I can kind of second that.
I remember reading some of the books too in like high school and stuff, and I was like, "Wow, this is like great." Like, I wonder if he's ever gonna adapt this kind of stuff. And then to hear him be like, "I don't even like that stuff," it's kind of like, okay, so the fans want this, and he's saying, "Oh, I don't even like that stuff." So he probably was just like, "I don't want to have to deal with the backlash of any of this," so he just sold out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, Luke had like 13 different love interests in Legends. Okay,
like,
you really
how many
think he
kids?
wanted to adapt all that? Like, no, like he really didn't. Like, there's so much stuff that he just didn't have his hand in. And if you release a movie or something, in any portion of the Legends timeline, and you don't follow the book that was released by some rando author, X2 whatever 9 whatever his name is, right? Like. Okay, like if you don't, the fandom is gonna be so mad, and so he's like throwing his hands up in the air. He's like, "There's 60 years of content in lore in the future that he basically doesn't want to touch because it's gonna piss everybody off." And like going back into the past, well, he already did that. So like, does he really want to go back farther in the past? Probably not. So then he sells it to somebody who's like, "We're just gonna wipe the slate clean," and he's like, "Fuck yeah, get rid of all that shit."
Yeah, so Star Wars was just like, the movies are canon, the shows that we have out now are canon, none of the books count, and so on and so forth. And then they were like games, cartoons, like the books that they put out now.
But if
will be canon.
if we do say that, because of the Legends and he hated the Legends, and he didn't like that, and he didn't know how to adapt it. But then Disney takes a hold of it, right? And then now they're doing whatever they're doing to it. And he says, I don't like it. This is some bullshit. I have no idea what they're doing over there. He wiped the slate clean. He still did exactly what he didn't want to do, but he gave it to somebody else to do it. But he still looked at, like, now people are all calling for Disney to sell it back to him or whatever. But it's like I said, it still doesn't negate the fact that he gave it away so easily, but that's because his mind was limited. He didn't know how to expand anything. He didn't know how to put it on paper. So when he put it on paper, they got other people, better writers, a better director, and then they shot it for him. And if we want to be honest, these two movies, not A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, I think Return of the Jedi is a little bit lower than Empire Strikes Back, but those are two beloved films by the fandom. Or am I wrong?
Wait, can you repeat that? I'm sorry, my headset died.
Yeah,
I'm dead. Like it doesn't disprove that George Lucas couldn't do it. I think he's the problem when it came down to certain films and all that, because he just couldn't pull it together.
But yeah, so like you're arguing that it's a matter of talent, but like it wasn't a matter of like, because most of the this talk came from like he brought some people on to help him out, right? So you're saying like he couldn't cut it to make something
in the
like
film
work.
industry. Let's say
Yeah,
he
yeah,
can birth
but
the idea, but he couldn't. Like he can be in the writers' room and put the words on paper or whatever, but somebody else had to think it out and put it out there for him.
see, I think, but like that isn't that the point? Like he created the universe. Like it's his story. He gives the plot points, and
And
then he's like, okay, but the small details, I'm not gonna sweat the small details. You want to add a little bit of like flair to that dude's, jetpack or whatever, you go for it. Just as long as like Leia's in a freaking skimpy outfit being, smothered by a hut. Like it doesn't, I don't know that like you argued this last time too. Like you are really hard on this point. Like I don't know that it's like that big of a deal, honestly. And like I said, like the whole selling to Disney thing, like it's not a matter of like him not being able to cut it in the film industry. It's like he literally, no matter what he did at that point, because of Legends, this is entirely because of Legends. Because I think if Legends did not exist, he could have made up any random bullshit for the next movie instead of, you know what? I'm not even gonna say that because we got another episode. But like, he could have made up anything to progress the story, including the vision that he had for it. But with all of the content that already existed, like he it would have been really hard for him to keep the fandom happy, but come out publicly and say, you know what, all of that EU stuff, all that Legends stuff that has come out so far, guess what, we're scrapping that and we're moving in a new direction. Lucas would have been the most hated person on the planet for every single Star Wars fan, right? But the fact that he was able to like revitalize the franchise by selling it off to somebody who could take that heat, right? Because it's a whole different entity. They can push things along. They have the repertoire with all their other like, content targeted toward various audiences and whatnot, and like their entire industry is entertainment, right? They can take the heat for wiping the slate clean and then try and rebuild something from the ashes, whereas he doesn't want to take the fall for the shit that other people wrote that he doesn't like.
Exactly. If he was independent and he wasn't really working with anybody like Disney or whatever to produce these movies, assuming he made his sequels and assuming the fans didn't like it, he as a company or whatever, he couldn't tank that kind of box office failure. Disney can, but even then, Disney made billions of dollars off those movies. So like it all kind of just evens out. But hypothetically, I don't think that would have been like a problem. I don't think it was because he lacked chops, like you're saying. It was more like, oh, these are my characters. I just need pen to paper. There you go.
Another example, I the reason why I argue this point is because I love George Lucas. I love Star Wars. It's my favorite franchise.
He hates Dave Filoni.
I don't hate Filoni either. That's not what I said.
Go check out our Ahsoka review. Go look at what he says about Filoni.
I what I'm talking about is purely from a film perspective on like how industry works. But another example, if we really want to throw it just a little bit across the pond, same thing, Lucasfilm, Indiana Jones. He birthed the franchise there too. He was able to put it out onto paper, figured it out. He directed the first one, and then after that, the best ones came out of people that were different directors and shined more on that franchise.
Just had that same like he establishes a story, he establishes some characters, he gets some revenue from it, and then he brings people in to like, because he has the capital to do that kind of thing. It's the same model that he followed. He literally followed the exact same like business model for both franchises. I think that was literally just how he approached business rather than how he approached telling a story.
Yeah, this is gonna. I feel like when we have the sequel trilogy talk, I feel like that's gonna put the cap on it.
It's gonna clash
because I feel like it's gonna put the cap on it. But damn. Okay, we'll have to wait on that one. I guess we're just gonna have to wait. But
Kate and I are gonna like chew you guys apart. I'm sorry, but when it comes to the sequels, we are going to go so hard.
So when it comes to those, just to kind of foreshadow it, from a like I always talk like I always tell Joshua here. I'm talking about these movies when I'm on this pod. Like I love these movies, every single one of them. They all have something in there that I can appreciate. Now, from a film perspective, film industry perspective, that's why you guys are the experts on the like everything else, probably lore and everything. I have knowledge of it. Josh has more knowledge than me, but as me being a Star Wars fan, I have a little bit of in-depthitude to that as well. But I come correct when I'm talking about these things, when it's just about filmmaking perspective, and the way that I look at statistics, analytics, the way that things are basically built up for like facts. And I 100% believe George Lucas just did not have the juice to get it done. And so when it came down to these movies, he needed somebody else to work on it.
I definitely think we should table this because I think both of us are just gonna like the tangents that we go on in our own podcast. We will take yours on just as much of a tangent. So I like the more we go down this road, the more of a tangent we're gonna end up on.
I get you.
I'm just enjoying eating my popcorn, listening. It is beautiful.
It's beautiful. So with that being said, though, Witchy, Empire Strikes Back, like I said, directed by Irving Kreshner. What was your reaction when you got into this movie? The pros and cons of this film, and what do you think about this film all in general?
I really enjoy this film. We get our first introduction to Boba Fett. We all know I'm a Mandalorian fanboy, even though like at the time Mandalorian was like just barely a concept. I love Boba Fett. I think he's so cool. So that was a pro for me. Seeing how badass or how domineering the Empire is at the Battle of Hoth, I think is awesome. I loved the little snow speeders trying to take down the walkers with grappling lines and whatnot. I thought that was super cool. The environment was awesome. The snow trooper armor was awesome. That whole sequence is great. His training with Yoda, like the training bit so, but Yoda's like personality is great. I love Yoda's lines. And we see his like conflict a bit, his like struggle with balancing his Jedi training with his attachment to his friends and whatnot. We see Han and Co get in trouble. Lando is introduced. Like there's so many really cool characters, really cool moments. There wasn't enough starfighter battles for me. That's a con. I love, like I said, it's literally called Star Wars. I want a war in the stars. So like get out there in your spaceships and blow shit up. Like I want that. But apart from that, I think the movie's really great. And at the end we get the big mic drop, like I'm your dad, guess what,
I'm your father.
yeah, I'm your daddy. And yeah, I think regardless of the fact that Luke and Leia make out at the end or whatever, like that's whatever. We didn't know at the time that they were siblings, so it wasn't Alabama yet, but
Space Alabama.
Yeah,
so like
they just look back at it, they're just like ding 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 ding.
Yeah, I think it was a very good story. Like Cloud City, I love Cloud City. All the missions in any of the video games you play where you go to Cloud City, I always love those. Just floating in the clouds, living up there, doing your thing. That's awesome. And the fact that they're mining, gas that is used in like laser production and stuff, that's really cool. And makes sense why Lando's so rich. But yeah, I thought Empire Strikes Back was super well done. Like I said, most of the cons for me are like, I want more space battles. I want explodey spaceships and lasers and whatnot.
Fucking nerd.
Yeah. Look, man, I'm literally sitting in a cockpit right now. You've seen it. You know what it looks like. You know who I am.
That is
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's not lying. His setup is actually like a space cockpit. Like, no joke.
Wow.
Wow,
That is.
very cool. Yeah. And I like this movie. I think again, I think the first one kind of just stepping stone to this one. When I say it's my favorite of the trilogy, no, I don't think so. But it's good. It's actually really good. I can't even like knock it. I like it. I like the beginning. With again, the Hoth battle was pretty cool. Luke's training, it's so dumb because every time I think of Luke training, I think of Family Guy when he's like training, where Chris is training with his Yoda from the Star Wars episode, and then it cuts to
It's the movie guy.
Russian, the Rocky IV Russian training scene.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck? Like it all just kind of connects. But I like the training montage. I would say the only downers is just the fact that Han and crew they're basically running up until they run into Lando, which I find kind of odd because it's like it impacts their screen time basically up until the end.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I said, I like Han. He's probably my favorite like non-Force user. So the fact that we rarely get to see him in the gang is all right. I mean, isn't all right. And then, well, the big climax ending, like him fighting Vader and all that, like that, A1 fight scene compared to in New Hope when you only get one lightsaber battle, and it's kind of lame.
Okay.
Other than that, this movie's really good.
Yeah. All right. Nikita, what do you think about Empire Strikes Back?
So, pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
All right, pros. My favorite, batshit crazy Yoda, because I watched the prequels first, so like Yoda's this like very stoic, grandmaster of the Jedi, and then all of a sudden you get to episode 5 and he's fucking beating the shit out of R2 with his Geimer stick and fucking being crazy trying to steal Luke's food. I love that shit. I love batshit crazy Yoda. Like Disney actually made it canon that like his Geimer stick kind of like gives him like a cannabis effect. Like it eases his pain. It gives him the munchies. So like literally Luke shows up and he's got the fucking high munchies. So he's just hungry. And I fucking love that. That's like my favorite part about this one. Yeah.
Like, hey, for real.
Other pro, there's a lot of like symbolism in this movie that I really appreciate. The biggest one being like when Luke gets to Cloud City, he tells R2D2, wait for me at the ship. When the last person who told him that was Anakin, and Anakin never came back. So of course R2's like, nah, I'm not falling for this shit again. I'm finna follow this Skywalker bitch. So like, love that. Love other scenes in there. Billy D. Williams, the first iconic black person in Star Wars. Of course I fucking love that. Cons though, I'll be honest.
Huge W.
Like the con for me in this movie is, it's like it's the whole scene with. I feel bad for saying this because I like my favorite couple, but the I love you, I know, cheesy shit. You could take that shit out. Like I get it, I understand. I don't want it, but I understand. And then I do love getting to see the bounty hunters because you see Boba Fett, you see Dengar, you see IG-88, you see Forlom, which a lot of them have some stories and legends that are like my favorite books. So that's another pro. But outside of like the love scene, that was like the only con. That was the only thing I didn't like. And again, I saw this movie when I was like, I think I saw episode 5 the same year I saw episode 4. So I was again like 11, 12, and I didn't really give a shit about the love, but still firmly believe greatest sequel to anything ever. Love Empire Strikes Back. Love the opening Hoth scene. Love everything about it. This is my favorite Star Wars movie. So it's gonna be, everything's good about it for me. The one bad thing is just me being a shitty prepubescent, kid, not knowing what love is, and and that's the same con I have to this day, except I'm an old man who doesn't know what love is, but that's a different story. But no, absolutely love this movie.
Nice. Nice. But fucking yeah, man. Nikita, Josh, Winchy, you guys are all on point. Obviously, this is one of the best sequels out there. Obviously, Luke had his whole change up too, from that whiny kid to, a more
hardened general.
Yeah, hardened general. Even though he you know, there is some gripes in this film. I mean, I could just keep harping on the nice stuff, but like, what about like the little dumb stuff, right? There, like, let's talk about him leaving the the cave after, you know, he was warm in there. Why'd he cut off the arm and leave? He could have stayed in there, right? Could have took the head off and stayed warm in there, right?
Bro, because then we wouldn't get to see what do you call it?
We wouldn't have that meme, right?
Yeah.
That's where I'm kind of leading up to, is that I feel like, I don't know if maybe it's because it's old, but like it just has a lot of memeable moments, and I feel like it there's a few things in that movie that were just kind of like pushed to set up the next thing. And even though it obviously that's how movies work, I think it was a fun time. I think it was a great. I know that I love the scene where he's just like, I thought they smelled better on the outside or whatever. Yeah. This movie's great. I don't know if like, and the lightsaber fight at the end, obviously we got that big scene where, you know, Darth Vader, I am your father and all that stuff, but I didn't think the lightsaber fight was that crazy either in that movie. It was a step up from A New Hope, but I didn't think it was like insane.
Okay, can I make a point to that though?
I'm with Winchy where like I would have loved to see a little bit more like battles, a little bit more lightsaber fights, stuff like that. Because even when he was on Dagobah with batshit crazy Yoda, he wasn't really like training with the lightsaber either. It was just him, you know, doing flips and
You
shit.
think your Force goes bend, bro? Like I don't see it.
Yeah, those are hard hitting moments, but it would have been nice to have a little bit more, you know. A little bit more, you know, if you're gonna have a great sequel, I think you would have a little bit more bang for your dollar in the second.
You did. The story was great here.
The story was great. I'm not saying the story wasn't good. I'm saying like, I think on
this is the one.
You know, instead of saying Boba Fett's the greatest, you know, bounty hunter out there, show us a little bit, right? Instead of him just tailing somebody and then losing them, or no, telling him all the way to.
You got something to say about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a point to make about the lightsaber combat.
Okay.
The lightsaber fight in episode 5, like the slowness and the pace of it makes sense to me. In episode 4, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's been a Jedi for I don't know how long, even though he may be old. He's realistically speaking, he's not that old. And then you have Darth Vader, the big bad of the Star Wars series. Like, that fight makes sense that it should be like an all-out kind of cool clash duel, right? Because these are two people, you know, who have like been at the pinnacle of, you know, the Jedi culture. Episode 5 makes sense because this is a dad like messing with his emotional son who has absolutely no training when it comes to a lightsaber, really, outside of the one time he deflected some shots from a robot on easy mode. And so like it makes sense that like he's sitting there toying with his kid. Because like that makes that I would do the same thing if my son brought a fucking stick to me and was like, "Dad, I'm beat your ass." I'd be like, "You could try." Like, and that's what that scene feels like to me, and so I feel like that makes sense.
Like he was taking it easy on him.
Yeah.
So easy that he was like, "I'm gonna finish it off with a cut of hand."
You know, son.
But it could have been a cut of head. You know, it could have been a cut of your midsection, but it was a hand.
Nah, man.
He was just like, he was like, "Now you got to be like me for real."
What kind of dad?
me for real.
he literally was teaching him the same lesson he learned fighting Dooku. Like, Luke went in ham, like was like, I can do this. I can fight him. I can save my friends or whatever. And then Vader's like, let me show you what I learned when I was your age about doing this exact same thing. I'm just cut off your hand. You can get a prosthetic one. Come back later.
I know you got.
Come again.
I don't know. I think. Well, not really. I think he was. If he said no, he was gonna go for the kill, right?
I don't think so.
Because when he stuck out his hand. And then, you know, Luke decided to jump, but if he would have said no and didn't jump, wouldn't he have cut off the other hand? Like, say
no,
yes,
I don't
son.
think so.
He'd have captured. He'd have force choked him till he was unconscious. Brought him back to his freaking Star Destroyer. Slapped him in a little torture chamber and tortured him until he joined.
He
up
broke.
with him.
Yeah,
like that's what he would do.
He wasn't gonna kill a Skywalker, and I don't think that like thinking about the Sith, like with whatever Vader's machinations were, I don't think he would have killed his son, and I don't think the Emperor wanted him to kill his son.
The rule of 2. What are you guys talking about? Of course he would have wanted him. to kill his
Yeah,
son.
but
Vader,
it's a Skywalker.
Vader probably would have corrupted him and then been like, "Oh, it's our turn now," and throw Palpatine off a cliff
Exactly.
or something.
Yeah, exactly. That was the premise of the whole lead up to that scene.
Yeah, join me. And
Together we will rule the galaxy.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Look,
Yeah, but he just starts cutting off
rule
his
of two
limbs and he's like,
scenario.
look at me. We can replace all of you.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's just like, just say yes, son. Say yes, please.
And it goes
Literally in
away.
I
every
don't want to
single
cut off
rule
your
of
next
two
leg.
thing. Like if you look at the history, we talked about like Bane and whatnot last week, but like rule of two, you are going the apprentice is gonna become the master. So like finding somebody who's gonna be your apprentice while you're planning to overthrow your master is fully in line with the Sith vision.
Yeah. Otherwise, Dooku wouldn't have had Ventress.
Exactly.
Maul dying.
Wouldn't have
gave
had
Dooku
Savage.
the chance to move up. Yeah.
Even Maul had Savage. So
Yeah, Maul had Savage, and they were planning to actually overthrow Palpatine. So
Well, that's the thing, right? But then Palpatine didn't know about Asajj, and then when he found out, he made Dooku killer.
killer, quote unquote.
Quote unquote.
Well, yeah, spoilers, guys. But either which way, like he wasn't successful, but
No, that's why.
he was
But
supposed
that's
to.
why. But the plan is to always have someone under you, so that way when the time comes, both of you rise up in rank. Eventually, if
Oh,
Dooku,
I get you.
that's why Maul had his brother, right?
Mhm.
And when he was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna roll together and stuff," and then Palpatine knocks on his door and is like, "Who the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
And then kills him. So
Yeah.
like just because Palpatine found out and did something about it doesn't mean that they weren't gearing up to do it.
Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
You're right.
Even think about Starkiller.
So it would have made sense for him to bring him back,
Yeah.
but continue to cut off
And
limbs
just
until
break his.
He, what he
fucking
probably
apprentice.
would have done if Luke didn't jump off is like when she said he would have force choked him till he was unconscious, tortured him until he broke him, but he probably would have put him on some star destroyer that he didn't report to the Emperor while he kept him in secret, like that, because that's basically what Vader did with Starkiller, So it would have followed that line probably.
You probably would have kept him where he stays on Mustafar or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Empire Strikes Back did a good job with that, how that entire scene went. Like, yes, it's slow, but it makes sense why it's slow.
And then I like the hint of Leia being Force sensitive too. So I kind of enjoyed that too. A little tidbit at the end.
So what was the comment about Boba Fett a minute ago?
Okay. so I what I want to say, okay, and I'm gonna be upfront. I understand people love Boba Fett. I understand people, in Legends he's this badass character, all that stuff. But in Empire Strikes Back, he doesn't really do much to claim that title or prove to us that title is his. He becomes a fan favorite, and after what happens in Return of the Jedi, to me it doesn't make any sense. I mean, they gave him a whole spin-off show, for fuck's sakes, and all because he was walking around toting a gun the whole time. It wasn't like Jango Fett, where Jango Fett proved that he can do stuff, and maybe limited by the time. Yes, again, but even in this like little description, it literally it says after rebels are overpowered by the Empire, Luke Skywalker begins his Jedi training with Yoda. With his friends are pursued across the galaxy by Darth Vader and the bounty hunter Boba Fett. Like, why even put his name in there, right? Like he's not
Boba Fett did most of the work. He just had to be like, I'm still following him.
Yeah, that's it. Like they're over here.
They're in space, surrounded by rocks and more rocks.
Exactly.
So let's think about like the scale of Star Wars, right? Because we're not like what we see is a very small portion of the galaxy, right? Like we don't.
You guys have just opened the worst can of worms. Oh God.
Like if you look at, there are billions of planets in this galaxy. Half of the galaxy is unexplored. You can't even get there because of turbulence and whatnot in the hyperspace lanes or non-existing hyperspace lanes. The galaxy is massive. Like finding somebody, especially because we know he didn't have one of them blinky trackers. He never pulled out a blinky tracker, right? Like Din Djarin has, right? So he ain't got no blinky. So he's tracking them like manually. The fact that he's even like able to find people at all, is a testament to his skill. All those bounty hunters there, like they were all good bounty hunters. But it's hard to find a bounty. Like even bounty hunters, if you watch stupid, like what's that guy, dog the bounty hunt, what's his name?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That dog dude. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like he knows where the guy lives. He knows like all sorts of information about him because he can look that up in like the public records. But Han, he's a smuggler. He's flying a spaceship through space, which by the way is hard to navigate and it's very, very vast. Like the fact that he can find him at all is impressive. And then like report back to Vader, eventually capture him and whatnot. Like it's impressive. It's not like, oh, he sucks because it took him a little while and he was chasing him around and he lost him for a little bit or whatnot. Like space is fucking massive.
How convenient in the film he just randomly finds him. I guess that could be the counter argument. It's like in the film, he just like, oh yeah, I know they're there, but how did you know they were there without one of the blinky things and whatnot?
With no blinky.
Yeah, with no blinky. Now, we're just supposed to go off of, oh, he's just that good? But show us why he's that good. If during like the scene
But he was never meant to be like that. He's not meant to be the big bad or anything like that. We like Vader is the big bad. We know that for a fact. Like Boba Fett his original concept was just supposed to be a souped up stormtrooper. He was just supposed to be another, face in the crowd with a cooler armor set. The fact that they made him like a different like not race, but like, different faction, all that kind of thing. Like that was new. He was a newly introduced character. They don't like, he's a bounty hunter. We know what bounty hunters are. We saw a bunch of random ones, a bunch of weird looking ones and whatnot. Like they don't need to dive into the,
Bosk was cool.
I mean, did they?
I mean, the Clone Wars gave him a whole arc.
Okay.
Bosk is a little bitch.
That was later, wasn't it?
Oh, no.
They gave Boba Fett an arc in the Clone Wars too. They also gave him his own
was a kid.
spin-off. Like, yeah, like
he was actually bitched a lot in those arcs.
What's
too.
her name with the ponytail was bitching him around.
Yeah.
Arsing.
Arsing.
Yeah.
Arsing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't think it. Like we don't need to see all the little intricate details about how he follows him. Like we were mainly focused on Luke anyway. Like Luke is the main character. They're the side characters. Boba Fett is even more of a side character because he's just a hired help.
I'm more like how did this character get so popular off of necessarily?
Because he looks fucking cool.
Yeah, no. If I was younger, I mean, when I was younger, I would imagine like this dude looks fucking cool.
I ain't gonna lie, he never hit me like that.
His ship drew me in heavy. I was like, that looks fucking cool.
I think what drew me in was
play the noise. Nikita, play the noise.
Armor.
I can't. This isn't Discord.
Fuck.
Play the noise.
Oh, the sonic boom.
And then Han.
Yeah, the seismic charge.
Han's whole sappy moments with Leia, and then just hitting her with the "I know" as he's hit with carbonite, emotional. Made me tear up. Like, damn. It was good. It was a good movie.
And then all he did was push him into the ship and then leave.
I remember being so pissed at that scene when I was fucking 11. This is Star Wars, not Love Wars. Shut the fuck up. It's pretty much the thought I had.
I mean, I always I didn't have an issue like that,
but he's just watching it. He's just like, that's gay.
Yeah.
And then, like moves on.
Yeah, well, I mean, when Nikita was 11, he was scared of cooties. So
damn.
I was scared of cooties until I was 19, brother.
Damn.
I think you're still scared of cooties.
I think they're still out there, yeah.
Nah, you can't say that when I'm willing to go down on a hut. That's not how that works.
That's true.
Hut
cooties, I don't like those.
But we never said anything about loving a hut. We just said you were gonna go down on them.
You gotta have some degree of love to go down on a hut because you know what you're getting into. You can smell it before you get there.
Ain't no love involved if my legs are gonna get burnt off. Ain't no love involved there. It's either this or that, bro. There's no love there.
That's so insane, dude.
No, but Empire Strikes Back is still good. I just think I would just say Boba Fett's the only like useless character in my book when it came to that movie.
I mean, the original Star Wars was called Star Wars: The Adventures of Luke Skywalker, not The Adventures of Boba Fett. So that's okay.
Okay.
I think as a supporting character, he did fine. The Cloud City betrayal is still a good scene.
I can't. I got like Family Guy brain rot because every time I see Vader, I think of Stewie where he's like, pew, pew, one woman, like.
Yo, like I know, definitely a tangent, but the Family Guy parodies of all the Star Wars movies are just the fucking best. I love them all.
Where he's like in the New Hope one, where he's like, "Who throws away a perfectly good couch? We're taking this." And then, like
Yo,
I got brain rot from these movies.
The best thing George Lucas ever did was license the IP like that. That was like the
Robot Chicken one, the Robot Chicken, where he's like, Stormtrooper. He's like, go fuck yourself.
something dark side.
Yeah, dude. Like, oh man, I have brain rot from these shows.
Yeah.
I think my favorite scene from that is when they finally get caught by the Death Star in the Family Guy A New Hope. What's it called? Blue Harvest. And Herbert the Perfect goes, "Did he say strap in or strap on?"
That was so good. What the fuck? That was so good.
In the what's supposed to be the Return of the Jedi, where he's like, "Holy shit, you're in here too," and he's talking about the alien from American Dad.
Oh yeah.
Insane.
I gotta rewatch those things again. I used to love those things as a kid. That shit was too funny. But now we're gonna round about to what in some books would be the most controversial in the bunch. Some people really love this movie better than The Empire Strikes Back. Some people hate this movie underneath it, and it's just like, well, what the fuck happened here? That's Star Wars episode 8, Return of the Jedi, or 6. Wait, what?
Did he say 8?
Well, I'm
6.
tripping. Why am I tripping, bro? My numbers are just
Holy damn.
Stripping with no luggage, cutting up with no scissors.
Excuse me. Episode 7. Sorry.
What did you say?
What the fuck? Oh,
Tripping with no
scissors.
No, tripping with no luggage, cutting up with no scissors.
Oh.
What the fuck?
Damn. I don't know.
That
I don't know
was
what
a good
happened.
one.
That was
I
a
couldn't
crazy
even,
brain
like-
fart. All right. Very good.
Episode 6. What? We were just talking
Yeah,
about
6.
Episode 6.
6, yeah.
Return of the Jedi.
Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Damn, what the fuck is going on with me? I tripped up, bro. Anyways, episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Obviously, we see our crew back. We, started up with going to get Han. Obviously, we got to have the whole crew for this movie. So, we last seen them being taken off. I personally, I like this one. This one, the Ewoks, all that goofy shit was great. I loved it. Loved the whole I know it's dated now, but like the whole the speed chase in the Endor moon, that was fun. The conversations between Luke and Vader when he first goes to the base after, Vader lets him go into Endor, which, Vader was kind of letting him, do all kinds of things as a father should. And the ending too was great, throwing them down a well. And obviously, we can discuss later on the repercussions and, somehow he returned from that. But altogether, with this movie, I loved it, man. This was great. Rewatching it recently in theaters, that was great. Return of the Jedi is just a masterpiece, in my opinion. But what do you guys think? Winchie, Nikita?
You go first this time.
Okay, yeah, I absolutely love Return of the Jedi. It is probably like my number 2 of all time, definitely my number 2 of the OT. And there's a lot that I love about it. I love getting to see whereas when she loves like the space battle kind of stuff, I really like the land speeder kind of stuff. Like I've always loved like motorcycle races and like the Fast and Furious, like racing cars and stuff. So when you see on the moon of Endor, when you see them racing on, like the scout troopers and like fighting each other, like I love that scene a lot. And it's just so for me, this movie has what I consider like I wouldn't say like the duel of fates of this trilogy, but like it has my favorite Star Wars theme, which is the victory celebration at the end when they defeat the Emperor. And like
Oh,
that's like I'll hit the nay on that one. Like I love the victory
Damn.
celebration. Like, and so I do enjoy Return of the Jedi because it's nice to see like because Luke is completely different than how he was in the first two. Like he goes from being the kind of like this emotional dude in like his early 20s to like being like a very kind of stoic like Jedi-esque person. Like obviously he's not a master yet, but he's fully in his knighthood, and you know he grows a lot, and you know he doesn't strike down his father. He refuses to strike down the Emperor when he has the chance, you know. And it just it shows a lot of growth of his character. Love the opening scene on Tatooine also because of how cool it is when, you know, on the sand barge over the Sarlacc pit and stuff. So I rate this movie like pretty high. Like I really enjoyed Return of the Jedi overall. It's definitely in my top 3 overall, and definitely I consider it the number 2 in this trilogy. So I love it. Absolutely love it.
Shout out to Leia for not going down on a hut, but choking him the fuck out.
You don't know that.
Oh,
You don't know what job I had her doing.
fucking.
Oh dear God.
Oh wow.
Wow, she's taking it to the grave.
Right. What'd you think about Return of the Jedi?
Contrary to what Nikita was saying a little bit, I actually love the speeder combat and stuff. Anything vehicle wise that floats or flies or whatnot, I do enjoy.
It's not
that
that I was saying you didn't enjoy it.
I know,
It's
I
I'm
know,
saying
I know.
Okay.
It's not like my favorite thing, right? Like you're right, it's not my favorite thing, but like I did really, those are some like aspects of it that I loved. The sand barges, I thought the sand barges were so cool. The fact that Boba Fett died, or sorry, didn't die the way that he did, but like, you know, got beat the way he did, it's a little silly, but like that shit happens. You see it all in the Clone Wars. Like somebody takes a tap to the jetpack and boom, they're fucked. So like I totally would understand it if I was, you know, a Mandalorian for reals and I had a jetpack. Like I would guard that shit like crazy. So so some of that stuff, you know, that people like hate on or rag on, it's like, okay, that's fine. But I love the movie. I love space naval warfare, which this movie was way more space naval warfare than just like a concentrated strike on a, you know, Death Star. This was all your you know, eggs in one basket kind of thing. So I really enjoy the final battle. I love the fighting inside the Death Star with the Wedge's X-wing and the Falcon and whatnot. I thought the Ewoks were cute. I thought they were a really fun part of the movie. I think that's like that section can get a little boring when you get to the part where like C-3PO is talking. Because I mean it's C-3PO. But like the natives like coming together to you know, surprise strike on the stormtroopers who are totally overconfident in the fact that they'll be able to, you know, withstand any kind of attack on their base and whatnot. I think that's super cool. You know, utilizing the guerrilla tactics and whatnot, super great. I think Luke is really like come into his character, especially at the beginning. Like he said, we see that like stoic, has the hood on, like reminds you of the Jedi that we saw in, it's reminiscent of the Jedi that we see in the prequel trilogy.
His father.
Yes, and like even like the beginning of the Phantom Menace where we see Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, like those scenes with them where they're very calm, like doing their shit, being badasses, but like having like that kind of, seems like they have like a little bit of intuition about like everything that's going on, and they're like totally, you know, everything is going according to plan, etc., etc. That's awesome. Fighting the Rancor, super cool. Seeing all the aliens in Jabba's palace is awesome. I think the movie was really well done. I didn't really have any problems. I didn't think anything about that movie really I disliked. There's like certain aspects of things that like you look at them now and you like there's an explanation for them, but maybe at the time it didn't really make sense, like the super star destroyer going out the way it did, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think the movie's really great, and I mean we get like iconic lines like it's a trap and whatnot. So
yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
that was iconic. I do think though, just to give a little pushback on the whole Boba thing, and I know you're a Boba fan and a Mandalorian fan, so I just gotta get it in here. But I kind of think that's cope though, to be like, oh hey man, it goofy shit happens in the way that they die. Because I mean, you saw Django in Attack of the Clones, who got hit with the jetpack too, and he took it off and kept going and got a little bit more fight in. I feel like they didn't know what they wanted to do with Boba Fett, or at least George Lucas didn't know what he wanted to do with him, and it was easier for him to just let it happen that way instead of trying to, I mean, I would have appreciated at least a little bit more of a fight from him in that whole scene before he went down like that, or at least not get downed by a blinded Han Solo, on accident.
So I think Boba, I agree. Like, I mean, sure, like there's some like weird ways that really cool, supposedly badass characters go down, but like you said, we saw that with Django when he goes down into the arena in the Coliseum there, and he gets trampled by, I forget the name of that beast. His jetpack starts sparking, and he tries to use it, realizes that it doesn't work, and it's one of his key, tools in fighting a Jedi, because one of the reasons that Mandalorians carry jetpacks is to counter the high mobility that Jedi have, because most of their kit, you got me on this now, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good, go ahead.
But
He's not sorry, he's lying.
Most of their kit, like throughout the entirety of their history, is meant to combat Force users. That's what the flamethrowers are meant to light all their robes and stuff on fire, like you see him light Windu's on fire in that Coliseum. The grappling hook is meant to kind of lock down their lightsaber arms and whatnot. The jetpack is meant to help them counter the flips and tricks and whatnot that the Jedi can do, and the armor itself is literally meant to block lightsabers. So like their whole kit is meant to fight a Jedi, and one of the and I know we're not talking about a Jedi that took him down, we're talking about Han, but like the jetpack is a very key element of their kit. So if your jetpack goes down and you were like in the middle of using it or whatnot, like as we see throughout the entirety of all of the like Mandalorian showings in Star Wars, when their jetpack goes out, bad shit happens to them. So like it is a very important part of their kit, and he's literally flying above the Sarlacc, so it goes out and he takes the fall, and what do you know, he gets dragged in by the tentacle monster.
I've seen the Sentai.
Goddamn.
I mean,
so like, yeah, it sucks
stick.
that like it sucks that a cool character got taken out like that, but also he wasn't the main. He was Han's foil, he wasn't Luke's foil, right? Like that was between Boba and Han were the two guys going at it. Luke was just the outside guy who happened to be Han's friend, but like Han was always Boba's target. So the fact that Han took him out, it makes sense, even though it's a silly way he went out, but like that was Han's enemy.
Okay, fair enough.
He's still mad. I don't know if you can tell. The silence is deafening.
Damn. I really like this movie. This is my favorite of the trilogy, if I'm being for real.
Okay.
I got there's not. Okay, other than it being dated, it's probably its biggest con for me. But other than that, I got nothing positive to say. I got everything positive to say about this movie. From beginning to end, seeing like everything, the Rancor battle, the way he handles himself now, Yoda passing and giving Luke his master ranking and things like that. I really feel like this movie just kind of concludes everything before the book opens back up. I got like no complaints. Even the ending still makes you cry, and I don't know if it's a bias thing because we watched this one in theaters, but I got like so much more appreciation for it. I think the fact that it's dated and the Ewoks are probably like the biggest offenders, but that's about it. Other than that, I can watch this movie like nothing. Like I think like it's so good.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The only like two, I guess it's like one issue, but two kind of that I have with this movie is like I didn't understand how the second Death Star got there so fast because the first Death Star takes like 25 years to build, and then all of a sudden they have like a second one. It's still not done, but it's like bigger than the first. Like where the fuck did it come from? And then like why did the Empire want two anyway? And why weren't they like identical? Why was one tiny and one was fucking huge? Like granted, the tiny one was still the size of a moon, but like that was the only that is really the only issue I have with Return of the Jedi. That's the part that I didn't understand when I went back and rewatched it older. Like I was just like, this doesn't make no sense.
That was me too. I don't really have a defense for it. I'm just more like that's exactly where I would say was an issue that I thought of as well because I was just like, it was a we didn't have that in Empire Strikes Back, nor did they even give us a hint or lay that Easter egg. So I don't know if maybe that was one thing that kind of adds a division to watching Return of the Jedi is just bringing back another used up idea, but just
Yeah, because it was
I have a
just a
defense.
recycle thing.
I have
Wait,
a
hold on
defense.
before you say that I just want to add one of my favorite ship in all of Star Wars is the Super Star Destroyer, and you see Executor, which is Vader's flagship. I wish that they would have made that the threat as opposed to a second Death Star because and it's really hard to tell from like the movie, but that ship is 15 kilometers long. That's a big ass ship. I wish that they had made that the weapon rather than another Death Star.
That would have made
Go ahead,
a little bit more sense because it you get the Death Star, their biggest ship, and then you're getting a little bit closer to Vader, but now you got to board his main vessel and all that stuff, figure out a way in. That would have made like the natural flow of things. But yeah, Winchie, what's your defense to it?
So the first Death Star was like a secret project in a way. Like the materials and for it and whatnot, like nobody really knew what it was except for the people that were working on it, and they took their time building it again because doing it in secret takes longer. You got to hide your resources, you got to hide where they're being transported to, all that kind of thing. After it's destroyed and like the whole galaxy hears about the Death Star, everybody knows what it was. Everybody knows that it's this big bad super scary shit that like they were gonna use on people, and I mean they did on Alderaan, but like they're gonna use it on people, and everybody knows what it is, and it strikes fear into people's hearts. So now the Emperor's like, we need another one, it's got to be done quick, like we're gonna divert all our resources to it, which is how the rebels find out about it more that much faster, right? Like they know where it is, all that kind of thing, like because Palpatine is just like, fuck secrecy, we're building another one, this is going to strike fear into everyone's heart. So I don't think the speed with which they like did it is necessarily too crazy, especially that was only like half formed in like its shell or whatnot. But like
it's not half formed, its reactor was working.
yeah, look, we know it was fully operational, but it was not a circle. Okay,
yeah, he said
it was not a sphere.
It's fully operational.
It's fully operational.
Fully armed and operational. But anyway, but like so like the fact that they had that another one, and we see that Palpatine's makes it his throne at that point. Like we never really saw a throne room or anything like that in the first Death Star, but he's like, okay, this is going to strike fear into everyone's heart, and I'm going to make this my big throne room. I'm going to sit in this shit. Now it's going to strike double fear because now everybody knows not only is the Death Star this big bad thing that's going to blow your shit up, but also the Emperor's on it.
Yeah, Emperor's thinking was small Death Star, little fear. Bigger Death Star, more fear. We get more fear from people. Big Death Star.
The biggest of fear. Like
and then a little jump to the future, but Kylo Ren's like, more fear, bigger Death Star. Crazy.
he's like, Palpatine's
Not Death Star
love
though, it's
this.
more like Death Planet, right?
Yeah, planet, yeah. So
Yeah.
but Return of the Jedi is I think also like Empire Strikes Back, due to like it being old and everything, like there's a lot of memeable moments. I think that whole scene in the beginning with Jabba, like I think that's a whole memeable moment in itself. The scenes with the Ewoks, it's just that a couple of things just don't hold up as you would have thought. Maybe back in the day too, they were just like, what the fuck, like this isn't what I was expecting 100%. But I think that's what kind of helps with the prequels too, is that campiness in these films that you know to kind of bring us into it full circle and get that campiness from the prequel trilogies as well. I
Out of curiosity, oh sorry,
no, go ahead. No, yeah, you got it.
Out of curiosity, have y'all seen the originals?
No.
Yeah, yes, I seen them that on VHS.
Oh yeah, we used to have them on VHS. I was too young to.
Yeah,
enjoy
that
those.
so that's how I saw them originally. So like I I I personally like the remastered ones better than the originals because the Emperor, like, sure, he's weird, green, freaky looking, but like I love Ian McDermott, so having him, like inserted back into the original trilogy and then them changing some of the scores from the original one, I thought was also like really cool. I think that is probably like one of the only times in, well, maybe not the only times, but like one of the main times in cinema history where you see like the remasters being just like so much better than the originals, like because they add to like the heart of the fandom, like replacing the old man that was Anakin Skywalker with Hayden Christensen from episode 3, like that kind of thing. Like I thought that was really cool. I love that about episode 6, and that's what gives it like an extra bump for me. Like I was actually shocked when you guys showed the scores that I did not expect Return of the Jedi to be the lowest of the 3. So seeing that was kind of like a shocker because I think it just has so much like extra, like this is like it's the end of the OT trilogy, but it's got like that extra scoop of nostalgia on top. Just like a nice little topping for it.
Yeah, I
Also-
just think I think the big questions that were there at the time really hurt the film for a lot of people. I think looking back at it now, yeah, and having all that backstory, even people that watch the remastered, which I was gonna bring up a little bit later down the road, but we could probably talk about it right now for sure. But like, it's it helps 100%, and but Winchie, you as well, do you like the fact that they put out remastered versions that not only for Return of the Jedi but Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope?
I'm actually gonna be honest. I've only ever seen the originals and rewatched only the originals, so I don't actually have that perspective.
Wait, you've only seen the originals, like with the
Yeah.
Green Emperor?
Yeah,
Oh,
like on VHS.
He was
like
green.
yeah, he was green.
He looked crazy. Yeah, he didn't look like
Yeah,
how.
see, I remember the old ones like barely
Yeah,
because we did have them on VHS. I'd walk in and I'd be like, "Oh, this is crazy," and then the Blu-ray ones are all I know. So that's insane. Why would he be green?
it was
Like,
just I think he was supposed to be more of a, obviously the technology too, but I think George Lucas was trying to keep it vague on who was under the hood because
Oh.
even then he was still wearing a hood. So I don't know.
So like my family had a VHS player for a very long time. We never had a Blu-ray player. And so like that was and I don't really rewatch movies very often or almost at all. So like once I moved out of my parents' house and whatnot, like I don't really watch a lot of movies unless I see something in theater. Like I said, I do watch a lot of anime, but movie wise I don't watch very much. So yeah, I've just literally never gone back and watched the
Did you watch
remastered
Visions?
ones. Yeah.
Interesting.
Did you love it?
Yes.
I thought it was a great take on like Star Wars like original stories with different media. Yeah, I really like
I love anthologies. Beautiful.
Yeah. Like Love, Death, and Robots. Love that too.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, I love that one, yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought all the various like vision stuff was really cool.
Visions. I never finished it.
I mean, it doesn't add anything to the actual
Non-believer.
story, right? So,
But yeah, no, I thought I liked it. I simply liked it because of the different art styles and stories too, and I like
Yep.
anthologies, so that it is what it is,
Yeah, no.
Also on the topic of the Ewoks, like I know not everybody like loves the little guys, but I think something that George Lucas has said kind of resonates with me, and it holds true for a lot of the movies. But like he's always said, like dare to be cute, dare to be cute, dare to make stuff that's like that. And I thought the Ewoks were cute. They're creepy.
They're fucking
and
metal as shit though. They ate them
Yeah.
stormtroopers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah,
They
they're
cooked them and
creepy,
ate
but,
them.
like, but they look cute, man. They're little teddy bears. But I mean, yeah, teddy bears that fuck you up, but like they're little teddy bears. And those like weird, like we see this in the sequel trilogy. All the weird little like animals. The what are they called?
Porg.
Pogs.
Porgs.
Porgs. There we go. Porgs. Yeah,
Like
like
porgs.
dare to be cute. Dare to make weird stuff that's cute.
Yeah, I like that, but then also having that in mind with the interview that George Lucas said and was like, this is basically supposed to be a reimagining of the Vietnam War. I was like, what? That this was like his take on the whole, war style, like when it came down to like real life politics or whatever. And I was just like, that is insane. But
Wait, so out of curiosity, that doesn't apply. I thought that just applied to episode 4. That applies to the whole OT.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm gonna be real with you. I did not know that.
Yeah, that was
the
like
natives in the fucking trees, like with the guerrilla tactics and all the traps, taking on the big bads who have their base in the forest, but like can't handle, what the natives have got going on. Yeah, that's absolutely.
Are you allowed? Are you allowed to say the trees speak Vietnamese on a podcast?
I don't know.
You said it.
If you gotta, sometimes I think if I gotta ask the question, it's probably not okay.
I'm sorry if you have to go back and edit that out, though.
No,
My
it's
apologies.
okay. It's okay.
But yeah, I did not know. I
we'll
did
see
not
how
know
bad
that
it was.
that analogy. Yeah, I did not know that analogy extended to all the movies. I thought it was specifically for just episode 4.
No, it's his little take on like politics and war. Like as times came on, he kind of just adapted his own way with the movies. So it's pretty. I mean, it's interesting where his mind state was at when it came down to all this stuff. But before we get on to the back end here, and we're gonna really start getting to the meat of it, because let's be honest, I did tell you before that Disney's that great divide when it comes to anything Star Wars. I mean, there's a little bickering stuff, like the Boba Fett we were bringing up, and Mandalorians, and all that stuff. Like all that is little things, but you could still gush over these movies. But now when we get to that territory, when it comes down to where we're at now, that's when things get a little bit more, how do you say, a little bit more heavy. So I think it was good to like tee up just a little bit, but I think this is around the time where a lot of the pushbacks are going to be coming around. But first, I kind of wanted, rate these movies how we did last time. We did it from 1 to 10, right, John?
Yeah.
Correct.
So 1 to 10, we'll get Winchy if you want to give us your 3 ratings for A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, 5 being in the middle.
You want all 3?
Yeah, if you want to just
Okay.
if you can. If not,
Okay.
we can start with somebody else.
So let's go. Okay, we'll just go in order. So I'll give A New Hope like I'll give it like a 6.5, 6. Just like we said, it's boring. It's just the beginning of the story, and there's like we saw last time. Like there's some definitely better like CGI and whatnot, and other movies and whatnot. Empire Strikes Back, I give that like probably like an 8 or a 9. I'm thinking. And Return of the Jedi, I definitely give it like an 8. Yeah, that's my, so yeah, like 6, probably 9, and then 8. I'm thinking.
Okay. Nikita?
So episode 4, I'm gonna give a 5. Just solid middle of the pack there. It's like I said, the hype of it is that it's the first Star Wars movie, and outside of that, it doesn't really do it for me. Even now, it definitely didn't do it for me when I was younger. So I just give it a 5. Episode 5, I give like a 9.5. Like I said, that is my favorite Star Wars movie. I absolutely love it. There's very little that I find wrong with it. I enjoyed every facet of it for the most part, and I think it's peak Star Wars, just period, in all aspects. Episode 6, I don't give it as high as episode 5, obviously, but I say it's still a solid like 8.5. So overall, 5, 9.5, 8.5.
Okay. All right. Josh?
A New Hope, I give 4 out of 10. I just think it's probably the worst offender of the trilogy. Empire Strikes Back, a lot better. I would say 8 out of 10. And then Return of the Jedi, I think that one's probably perfect. 10 out of 10.
Ooh, a 10 out of 10.
For the Return of the Jedi?
Yeah.
That's
I really like the happy ending.
That's a hot take.
yeah.
No, I think it's really good.
And that's not just because of nostalgia with the whole scene in theaters, right?
No. It's really good.
Yeah. Okay. That's different. I never heard of 10 out of 10 with Return of the Jedi. Empire Strikes
Damn,
Back.
I didn't even give
maybe.
episode 5 a 10 out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would give that one first, but New Hope for me, I think I'm with Nikita on that one. It got to be a 5. That one, it doesn't move the needle too heavy, and I mean you're just on a steady roller coaster the whole way through. It's not much doing there. Episode 5, got it. I give it like a I don't even know, like a 8.5. 8.5. It's really good, really well made. There's a lot of what the fuck moments. Maybe they are filled up with a lot of knowledge from books and shows and stuff, but now at least Empire Strikes Back hasn't really been meddled too much with. I think a lot of people just understand that it's not worth even trying to explain. Just leave the movie alone, so it could be great on its own. And then Return of the Jedi, well, I like it. It has more of the cheesiness that well, yeah, it has a lot more cheesiness in this one, so I got to give it like probably a good 7.5. Other than that, I think these movies are still great.
Okay.
Obviously iconic.
Interesting.
Obviously iconic.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Very good.
But Josh, you did say that Blu-ray, that's all you watched when it came down to these movies, all remastered. Okay. So, obviously, like I said, here we go. We're about to get we're dipping our toe into it before we get into our next episode that we're going to obviously record together when we talk about the sequel trilogy. But as of right now, the original trilogy is, some people feel it's under attack. Some people feel like Disney's doing a service to it. We started off with Disney completely ignoring the prequel trilogy when they first came out and bought Lucasfilm from George Lucas. They completely ignored it, said, hey, we're gonna edge our own path forward. They did what they did, got the reception that they did from obviously critics, fans, and general audiences alike. Like I said, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So now they decided to backtrack, and now they're showing prequels more love. We did talk about that in our last episode together as well. Now they're trying to show the OG trilogy love as well. Starting back all the way in 2016, they try to fill in some gaps. Obviously, people were like, A New Hope, why the hell would they ever make a Death Star with a hole in there? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Why would they do something like that? Disney said, we're going to make a movie just for that. Rogue One, right? We got Rogue One out of it. And then they were like, well, what was Han Solo doing when he was young? Oh, we got that too. Solo, correct? Obi-Wan, what was Obi-Wan doing in the desert this whole time with Luke? Made Obi-Wan. So we got a bunch of shows and spinoffs. Even after Return of the Jedi 2, we're getting The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, that is trying to, clean up some mess that happened a little bit down the road in the Star Wars future history. So the question for the Force Unscripted starting off now, how do you guys feel with Disney coming back around and putting more, I guess, content out when it comes down to the OG trilogy? Now that they're really pressing hard, Rebels is another show that they decided to put out there along with it.
Personally, I have so like obviously I I was telling you guys like before we started recording that like I don't necessarily agree with Disney's approach to the sequel trilogy, but at the end of the day, it's Star Wars, so I love it. But what I will say that Disney has done really well is with their series and using their series to fill in gaps that we didn't before have. Like, I don't like the weakest of the series being the Boba Fett one, in my opinion, but I think everything else has done like an absolutely fantastic job at giving us extra tidbits of information because I'm very much a lore heavy person. I love lore. And so I love what they've done with the series to kind of give, some more context to the original trilogies to make the sequel trilogies that they kind of fuck up, in my opinion, make more sense, right? And so that's the one thing that I think that they've actually done a good job with is like not only are they it feels like not only are they giving us more background to kind of understand what happened by the time we get to the sequel trilogies, but it also feels like they're kind of repairing their relationships with people like me and Winchie who were knowledgeable about Legends. We're kind of disappointed with the direction the sequel trilogies went. And so we're kind of getting like our
Course correction.
a little bit, yeah, basically the way we talked about this in one of our episodes, and the way I described it is like if you think about the sequel trilogy as like a painting, like it feels like you just had like a blank canvas and you took three different colors and threw them on this canvas. It's just color splats. It's not anything really. It's just like kind of like abstract art. And I feel like these series are kind of like adding other colors and different brush strokes to what was once just a glob of paint on a canvas, and now you're starting to see the bigger picture of everything because now these globs are turning into shapes that you can see, whether you're thinking of like like maybe they're painting a forest or whatever. It's starting to have more detail and you can see a more concise, solidified picture as opposed to just three blobs on a canvas.
Okay. Winchie?
Um, yeah, I mean, you mentioned like the original trilogy is under attack. I totally disagree with that. I think now it is much less under attack than it was when the sequels came out. And I'll get way more into this when we do the sequel stuff. But like, the Force Awakens is literally copy paste of A New Hope. They had no direction or vision. They didn't know what they were doing.
I'm sorry, Winchie.
And
Could you
so
just speak up just a little bit?
I'm sorry, I was mumbling. My bad. Where do you want me to go back to? Because
No,
I'll say it all
you're
again.
good. We got it all just so we can hear just a little bit better as you go on. Go ahead.
My apologies. Yeah, so like coming back with all these series was I think always going to be a good move on their part. Like we said, the weakest of the series is the Boba Fett show. It doesn't matter that I love Mandalorians and whatnot, and the fact that we got more episodes of the Mandalorian within the Boba Fett show. Like the Boba Fett show was the weakest one, but um even that like gives us some answers to like what happened to some characters like Cad Bane. It fills in details, and like how we find out about how Boba Fett got out of the Sarlacc, because we saw him in the Mandalorian show, so we knew he lived, but like how people needed to know. um and they wanted those answers, going back like the Obi-Wan show, finding out like how he met Leia, how Leia knew to send him the Death Star plans and whatnot. The filling in the details has been so far, in my opinion, really great. And one thing that these shows have done, um, that I really really like, is that they've been bringing in the little aspects of Legends that a lot of us really love, and like maybe twisting them a little bit, maybe changing them a little bit, but like bringing in a lot of the things that people loved about Legends into canon in a way that makes sense with the current story, because they realize, like Nikita said, there are people like us who really needed that, like we really needed Star Wars to get some help. And they're understanding that, like, hey, we can't just be spitting out copy paste, like slapping 10 different, storylines into one thing and sending it out as a movie like we do with Marvel and hoping that it works out. Like, this isn't the multiverse or whatever. You can't just like slap a bunch of shit together and hope you make a couple billion off it. um so yeah, so them going back, like, Acolytes is going to be one of the first like new things that they really do, where they don't touch anything that we've previously seen. So that'll be very interesting to see. But like the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Rebels, the end of Clone Wars that they finished out, like all of those things filled in major gaps, added major plot points. I'm not even gonna get into the Mandalorian stuff because we'll be here all week, but like there are so many things that they've done well with these shows, even the weakest ones.
Okay. Josh,
Uh,
Under Attack or Being Saved, the OG trilogy.
I would say being saved. I think Disney kind of saved the trilogy with all this stuff coming out. The sequels, all these other series, like I feel like they help rejuvenate everything that the OG trilogy and the prequels stood upon in their respected era. I don't think that they really have anywhere else to go, or anywhere else but up to go, if that makes any sense. Where they could just take the franchise to new heights with, and that's what they're doing. They got Acolyte, they got the Ghost one coming out. I forget what that one's officially titled.
The Skeleton Crew?
Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Ghost. Yeah, Skeleton Crew. And I think there's a few more down the pipeline. I know Ahsoka season 2 is getting season 2, but I would say it's helping. I don't think it's killed it in any shape or form.
Oh, okay. So I want to start off with a disclaimer, y'all, because I am the host of the show. I gotta be the one to push the needle. I gotta be the one to start the controversy. So these are not my views. These are what people are saying about said Disney attacking and yada yada. I'll give my own opinion on every single topic, but I gotta be the one to ask the questions here. So first things first, there's obviously some good, of course. Rogue One. We have Rogue One, which is great. They gave us some detail and key details when it comes down to A New Hope that, really helps the story go. But then you also got people that will point out that Disney also made Inquisitors. Why did they make Inquisitors? Well, in order to have lightsaber fights that weren't just, Darth Vader and Luke, and kind of to pull out the red lightsaber and have those battles. Give them a spinny sword for flashiness or whatever. They come out in Rebels, and a lot of Star Wars fans have issues with that. The Force Unscripted, either one of you, whoever wants to go first, what do you guys think about Inquisitors and Disney implementing them within the Star Wars universe?
So I'm sure Nikita has a lot to say, so that's why I'm gonna butt in first. I think it's fine. So first of all, Vader and Palpatine never meant for the Inquisitors to be super powerful. It's the rule of two. Remember, they don't need somebody who's a super skilled duelist with a lightsaber. They just need people who are capable of hunting down Jedi. And if they develop a lightsaber that does some spinny shit that confuses the Jedi for a couple seconds or whatever, gives them that advantage so that they can hunt them down more easily, then so be it. I think that's fine. It's can be a weird design. The fact that you can fly with it's kind of sick, but like also kind of weird. But it does generate a lot of heat, so atmospheric pressure, that kind of stuff. Like you can get into the physics of that if you want, but it is superheated plasma, so there's some aspects of it that can make sense. But on top, like aside from the weird lightsaber stuff, like the Inquisitors are an aspect of Legends. Not exactly Inquisitors, but the Emperor Palpatine, he had the Emperor's hands, who were like Force sensitives, who were trained in a little bit of how to use the Force, maybe had a saber or whatnot. That enforced the will of Vader and Palpatine. They did pretty much the exact same thing. So bringing in Inquisitors was like totally a move from Legends that they brought in, and I thought was super okay. Like even in the books, like when the like Republic Commando series, when it became the Imperial Commando series, so I'm not even gonna get into a ton of that, but like they trained up Jedi that switched over to hunt down other Jedi. Like that was one of the very first things that Vader did, was set up a executioner squad that hunted down rogue Jedi. So I think the Inquisitors are fine. Some of them are wacky or whatever. Like Reva's, like a not my favorite Inquisitor. But like I think the Inquisitors were perfectly fine.
Okay, Nikita, ready, set, go.
I am personally on the the train that, like, yeah, the Inquisitors are okay. I don't know how I don't think I agree necessarily with how Disney went about them. I think there's too many of them. I think that the Inquisitors should have been like maybe like five Inquisitors max, if anything. And so like seeing the stuff in the like the Kenobi series, seeing the sisters and the brothers that show up in like the Jedi Fallen Order game, like it's just it didn't fall in line with the whole Order 66. Like I see all the time on like Twitter, like the discourse of like, was Order 66 really that impactful if this many Force sensitives survived? Like, yes, because when you think about like all of the Jedi that there were and how many are left, like they still got rid of basically like 95 to 97% of them for the most part. And so like when it comes to the Inquisitors, like it's kind of like a give and take sort of thing with me. I do enjoy the fact that, like, as what you mentioned, they kind of like they are what took over for the Emperor's hand in Legends. But even in Legends, like I think there were only ever three or four Emperor's hands that we know of, and I kind of wish they would have kept to that like small, tight knit circle. But what they did keep was, like, again, something else that when she mentioned was like making sure that they were strong but not too strong. One thing that the Emperor's hands were like, for the most part, they knew that they were force sensitive, but they weren't trained in how to use the force. Mara Jade being an example, like she always knew that there was some reason why Palpatine could contact her across the fucking galaxy, but she didn't really know much into it. She always called it like her danger sense. Like she always knew that like something was coming. She didn't know it was the Force, but she knew, it was something that had to have been related to Palpatine's powers. And I feel like they do a disservice to that with the Inquisitors by just making them straight up like either fallen Jedi or Force sensitives trained in the dark side, but they do it justice by making them as pawns to fulfill the plan of the complete and utter extermination of the Jedi, and while not making them these super powerful people who can actually contest, like either Vader or Palpatine. Because like I mean, you see Vader straight up diff Reva, like she has no shot. Like he's fighting her without a lightsaber half the time, just fucking catching her blade with the Force and shoving her around like she's a fucking rag doll. So I like if I had to do it the same way we do the movies, if I had to rate the Inquisitors like as a whole, I'd give them a solid like 6.5 out of 10.
Okay, all right, Josh.
I don't know. I've never had a problem with Inquisitors. I always thought that it made sense that Vader is gonna hand off. So Vader and Palpatine are gonna hand off things to lackeys to handle it. Bounty hunters, the Inquisitors, like all these people. I really feel like it's just a matter of ranking. It's not so much that oh, they're gonna, they're Sith users, they're gonna take their spot, this and that. It's like, no, they have the potential to gain rank and maybe at some point join Vader's side, but that you can tell that they all fight for power and eventually they betray each other too. So I never had a problem with the Inquisitors. I always felt like they were a necessary evil. And as far as like them being like fallen Jedi or whatever, you can say that because they folded on their ideals, that yeah, it's how they ended up there, and they ended up tortured and then rehabilitated into an Inquisitor. I don't mind that. I feel like that is exactly up the Emperor's alley.
So, to follow up on that point, that's the entire thing that you just said is why I am so conflicted about it, because Palpatine, being a student of the Rule of Two, knows that the process you just described with all the ranking and stuff is exactly how the Sith led to their own downfall the first time, and that is something that Palpatine would know. The same thing with like some of these Jedi becoming Inquisitors because they're fallen Jedi is the same way that like Sith formed in the beginning when every Force user was just called a Jedi, and then they split into factions which were Sith and Jedi. It's the same. It's following that same line, which ends in downfall. And Palpatine, for as evil as he is smart as shit and would know that that would be counter to everything that he is, which is the culmination of the Rule of Two.
But that's
and so that's
I'm gonna fight him on that a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
So we know, yes, that is correct. But I think Palpatine was so confident in his own power that he felt like he could get away with it a little bit.
Yeah, he was.
Also,
He was
like we said, the galaxy is fucking massive. Like, you gotta have some people somewhere do like enforcing your shit. Like, Vader cannot be everywhere.
And stormtroopers
It takes
weren't
time
taken
to
serious.
travel through hyperspace.
yeah, but why does it doesn't have to be Force users? That's
agree.
the issue.
I agree, and it's also like you got to understand, if he already has all that knowledge from like Darth Plagueis the Wise, all these other like Sith, that like he already, like how you said, history will repeat itself. That's exactly what he wants. It's him and Darth Vader, and the Inquisitors fighting for power. So by the end of everything, when they're done with their job, what's left to take out? Each other to be on top, and then the winner gets Papa Darth Vader, and then Darth Vader is just gonna body him, and then that's the end of the Inquisitors.
And then I don't know. We talked about this on another episode, but I don't have a problem with the notion that Force users exist. It's so much. Jedi is a religion. Force user is just that, Force using. It never bothered me that anyone can be picked up off the street and be taught how to be a Jedi or a Sith, depending on who you run into. Because these are just normal people hiding out. Just because the Empire snuffed out
Sith.
Jedi doesn't mean that a Force user wouldn't, be birthed and given to. You know what I mean?
It's not the Force users existing, though. It's the organized dark side Force users specifically. It's that.
But like, if that were a problem, right? Like the Dothamiri witches and like all the various cults that are hidden all over the galaxy.
Palpatine wipes them out.
Yeah, okay, but like those would have been a problem the entire time that the Rule of Two has been going on. Like, they are not Sith, though. Neither are the Inquisitors.
Yeah, but they're not exactly.
Sith.
They're not Sith.
Right. So it doesn't matter. The problem with the Great Sith Empire is that they were all Sith. And so like they were spreading that like wealth of power and whatever between all of those people. But these guys are not Sith. They're just like some dark Jedi. Like, they're just like Balin.
They're
right?
essentially
not
they're
quite
essentially
like Balin.
But okay,
hunters.
but the Dathomiri are a bad excuse, because it's not that they are Force users and then they are practicing the dark side. It's that the dark side is just steeped as a part of their culture. I mean, like the same thing with the Koronai that Mace Windu come from. Like, they're not like practicing the dark side for the practice of the dark side. They're practicing the dark side because it's just a part of their culture. The Inquisitors are practicing the dark side for the sake of the dark side.
A lot of people would mind. Like, I'm just giving an example of a cult that uses the dark side. That,
Don't
like,
you play devil's advocate with
Look,
me.
motherfucker.
All right, listen here.
We got it.
Listen.
This is not a Star Wars only podcast, okay? They review
true.
other
That's
shit.
true.
So like, I'm giving an example from the media that people might like know about. All right.
But everyone knows, if they watch the media, that Palpatine wiped them the fuck out. You would think that would be reason that he wouldn't want another organized group of dark side users.
Which is why they never had power, and which is why they were killing each other off and whatnot. They were a short-term evil to get rid of the remaining Jedi, so that him and Vader could focus on building their empire rather than hunting down all these weak-ass Jedi everywhere.
You know what? I said what I said. I'll fight with you when I get to your house.
Damn.
That's fine.
Damn,
You
he
ain't
said
got
this is gonna
gas?
get personal. But I agree with Winchy. I think by the end of that's the only reason why I don't have a problem with Inquisitors. I know there's that debate right there, and this is where that divide comes in. Is how they get Inquisitors, all that stuff, but I agree that it shouldn't be that too big of a deal because of the fact that we know that they're going to kill each other off eventually. Eventually, they're just going to rise to rank, and they're not going to be around anymore. And that's what Disney kind of wanted, is for them to disappear by the time the original trilogy comes around, because then by that time there's no other Inquisitor or anything like that. It's Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader.
And they're so replaceable, dude, because I mean, don't you kill like 2 of them in the Fallen Order, right?
Yeah, and how pussy are they, bro? In that fucking episode with Ahsoka, she fucking took that dude's head off. Nothing.
With his own saber.
Yeah.
Yes, they're like mad replaceable, and I mean, there's that too, right? Because some of them probably didn't make it past that, or that one was like controlled for some reason, like it was just gas. Like we don't know anything behind that, but it's more like none of them probably lived past the days of the Empire, because they were promised false power for Vader to just be like, like it doesn't.
Basically.
Look who's big and bad.
Yeah, you think you tough? Not anymore. So I mean, any more to touch up on that subject of Inquisitors?
I think we covered it. Let them argue about it by themselves later.
So leads me to another point and another, I guess, issue that people have with the original trilogy, and it comes from the same show, Rebels, and that's Ezra Bridger. Apparently, he's the big what the fuck. So if Luke is supposed to be the last Jedi, that's completely false, because Ezra Bridger is around.
So we actually get an answer for that in the Ahsoka show. What was the name they gave him, Tay? The Jedi who were like after the fall of the temple.
You lost me on that one.
Okay, Balin names the Jedi like Ahsoka and Ezra. He gives them a name that they're like Boken, wasn't it Boken?
Boken Jedi. Yeah.
Yeah. They're not Jedi. Like, yes, Ezra was trained by Kanan Jarrus, but like never finished the training. Same thing with Ahsoka, never finished her training. I mean, she kind of finishes her training in the Ahsoka show, but like none of them are true Jedi. And like we mentioned earlier, the galaxy is fucking massive. There were a lot of Jedi. The fact that like 2% of them survived, like, okay, none of them are trying to rebuild the order. None of them are walking around saying, I'm a Jedi Knight, I'm a badass, I work with the rebellion, whatever. I mean, Kanan kind of, but like, you get what I'm saying? Like,
Kanan was trained to knighthood, though.
Right, but he's dead. So by the time of A New Hope, he's gone. So like, we really are not seeing other Jedi around, right? Like, even though there may be some like people hidden off wherever, like Yoda, right? Like, Luke is the first of the new Jedi that are trained.
Oh, I lied. Kanan wasn't trained to knighthood. Sorry.
There you go. So, bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're Jedi in all but name. So.
Well, it's because you were saying the other day that, JP was saying the other day that Ezra runs into the rebel leaders, and obviously because of the OT trilogy and where it lies, we never hear about that. But even Disney has yet to like say something about Luke and Ezra.
Yeah, because I mean, it wouldn't be like, oh, Luke, you're a Jedi. I thought they were a myth and blah blah blah. No, actually, you just met Ezra Bridger a couple months ago.
Okay, I mean the rebel again. Empire, like, the galaxy is massive. The rebellion is also pretty massive. Like, even if it's a very small like organization for like in terms of the galaxy, it's still a huge organization in terms of Earth. I'm pretty sure the rebellion was much bigger than like the United States military, for
I don't know,
instance,
man.
right?
I think you'd remember the special force using member of the army.
Yeah, and then I mean, if Leia knew about him already, why is it such a big deal when he's using the Force when Luke is, obviously in the original trilogy, and same thing with Han. I think Chewbacca met Ezra Bridger, right?
I can't even remember.
Chewbacca's one thing. Chewbacca's got his own secrets. He knew who Yoda was.
Nobody understands that fool half the time.
Well, that's true.
Right,
no one can understand it, so it's not that he can be like, we know this guy. Like
in the background, he's just like, Ezra Bridger's a thing, and then it's just like, oh, Chewbacca.
But
whatever you
you know
say.
what? If you think about the OT trilogy, the only person who doesn't really know about Force users, like in the scheme of like the main people, are like Han and Luke. Like Leia's just, they never talk about it, and she's never like, oh, I don't believe in the Force, or like she starts saying like, may the Force be with you, and she never questions it. So like maybe she's just not talking about it because it's still hush hush, and she knows it's hush hush.
oh, maybe, yeah, maybe they did plan for it.
Because like she never, I mean, like
what about
the topic
Obi-Wan?
of
Why
Leia
didn't Obi-Wan be like, oh, you know what? You know who else is out there besides Yoda? Ezra Bridger.
Why would he?
He wouldn't know.
Ezra was just a kid. Like, they met one time and talked over a campfire. Like,
I killed Darth
Yeah.
Maul in these sands.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna start spilling his backstory. This guy who I killed when I was a Padawan chased me 20 years into the galaxy, and I killed him right where you're standing. Like,
what about Obi-Wan? I know a lot of people thought like the spin-off shows are an issue as well. You got Obi-Wan, obviously. I think that one's mixed, depending on how you cut it. But the whole Reva chasing Luke and Luke not knowing about any Inquisitors was kind of a question as well.
Oh yeah, that shit was dumb. That was the only part of Kenobi I didn't like. Everything else was that good shit to me.
like I said, Reva, we've talked about this before, but like Reva's was the weakest link for me in that show.
Okay, so
well, I mean, yeah, I guess so.
So L then? That gotta be enough?
I think the part where she fights Vader is like piece de resistance. I'm glad I got to see Vader flex, yoink a ship out of the fucking air. But then like afterwards she goes to Tatooine, I was like, this don't make no fucking sense.
Basically,
They just wanted to add like some conflict at the end there. They just really wanted to do something with that, and I think it fell short of the mark. Like, nothing against the actress that played Reva, but like the story and the script that she was given just wasn't there.
Yeah, like the acting fine. The actual story, like ugh.
she's just another prime example of like of what the Inquisitors stand for, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna be promised power if I do this, because she knew somehow, regardless of how she knew that Anakin / Vader was really desperate to find Obi-Wan. So she was like, oh, how do I move up in the ranks? I'm gonna find this motherfucker for him, and then so on and so forth. So they out the gate, she was promised false power, and then Vader was just like, knock that shit off, bro. Boom. I don't know. I
Stabbed
feel like
her and she still didn't die.
Yeah, she stood for what the Inquisitors really stand for, which is just disposability. And then, her chasing Luke and all that dumb stuff like that was just dumb. The kind of cheesy shit that Star Wars is about.
How you gonna try to commit to being evil and then fold at the last second?
Also,
Pussy. No.
Pussy.
Yeah, exactly. Pussy.
children have been known to like, bottle up and forget about traumatic events sometimes. So maybe Luke just like locked that away in a corner of his mind that he
My
didn't
boy
ever,
Luke coped.
Yeah, exactly.
coped.
Maybe he was just like, oh, she was the red scary person. Oh no.
The first black lady he's probably ever seen because it's fucking Tatooine, and he's like, oh yeah.
He's like, I'm not looking back. I'm not looking back.
Oh my god, dude.
Why? Why? No. Anyways, oh shit. So you have that, and then I mean, maybe when she wants to take the reins on this one, but the Book of Boba Fett, another what a lot of people feel was, I mean, maybe misleading because in The Mandalorian, everybody was hyped. They were like, Boba Fett is back. And then when the Book of Boba Fett came out, everybody was like, why the fuck they bring him back for this? So, I mean, what do you got to say about those kinds of gripes?
Okay. So, there's a lot to say here, but like I mentioned, I think the Book of Boba Fett was the weakest of the shows. Even though like we had that whole like Raven thing talk just now, I still think Boba Fett was the weakest of the series, excluding the part where we had episodes of just the Mandalorian, because that stuff I think was great. But Boba Fett from Legends was an absolute monster. He was in a class of his own. But I did learn some stuff from some maybe not like trustworthy sources, but seems legit information that like there was some conflict between Favreau and like Kathleen Kennedy and whatnot in this, and like this was meant to be like Favreau's thing. He was going to be a movie. It was going to be cool, and like he was forced to like turn it in a whole different direction, bring back Grogu, because at this point Grogu had been passed off to Luke, and but then they realized that like, hey, Grogu is a money-making machine, so we got to bring him back. So they hijacked this whole like Boba Fett show, this thing about this badass character, and kind of turned it into something that like really just sets up other franchises, really just like revitalizes the season 3 supposedly of the Mandalorian. And so Favreau just said like, fuck this, I'm just gonna write like some dumbass shit, we're gonna put it out and we're gonna move on, because I'm not invested in this anymore. And I totally feel that in the story, because the second you hit the Mandalorian episodes, it's like it's good content. Yes, they bring back Grogu, which is a silly thing to do, but like he was told to do it, and he had to do it somehow. Like those episodes were great. And then the final episode where they kind of wrap everything up was pretty good too, again because Mandalorian is there, and he really cares about that character in that project. But like the rest of it is kind of a throwaway. The bits with Boba Fett and the Sand People I thought were really good. I really liked those, like him without his armor, as a pretty much a slave, befriending the people, becoming stronger, like finding himself a little bit, and then like all comes tumbling down. He's got it out for the Pike Syndicate, that kind of thing. That was great. And then but then like the whole, I'm gonna take over from the Hut, from whatever his name was, Bib. Was it Bib, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then like, I'm gonna take over, but we're gonna be like peaceful, huh? I'm gonna take over this criminal enterprise, and we're gonna protect the people and not do bad stuff. And it's like, okay, that's definitely not the hard ass Boba from Legend. So like that part I was really disappointed in. The fight scenes I enjoyed, the good ones. I thought those speeder bikes looked really fucking weird, man. I know they're just like gaudy motorcycles and whatnot, but like, damn, they were stupid. And the spin move with the blaster, Jesus, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the parts where it's Din and Boba, like those are good parts. That's all some good stuff.
Yeah,
it's
their
just like,
last stand was pretty cool.
yeah, so like what I'm saying is he got really like forcefully derailed on what he wanted to do with Boba, so he really stopped caring about the rest of it and just focused on making the parts about the Mandalorian stand out and be good, so that the rest of the Mandalorian stuff that he did care about, that was his pet project, would shine. So that's exactly what I see in that show. And yeah, it's disappointing, but like that, I definitely think that was a like business management problem rather than like a storytelling problem. They really just like screwed him hard on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of vibing with this show. I think everything about it, Fennec Shand, and you know, you even get to see what's his name, the Wookiee. I forget his name.
Chrysanthemum.
Yeah, Chrysanthemum. Like, I was really fucking with the show for a cool second. I think if this wasn't shaping up the way it was, and it was actually him going against like the what are they? They're supposed to be like Jabba's like nephews or whatever, or his cousins, some bullshit like that, trying to claim his land. I would have loved to seen him go against that crime syndicate in a better looking like way. But I feel like this show was a lot of filler, and then we got cool stuff with Ahsoka meeting Luke and all this kind of stuff. And then I wasn't really a big fan of the fact that they gave Grogu back so quickly. But apparently, he didn't get him back for 3 years. Like, I don't really like how they stretching out time like that.
Yeah, a lot of time jumping and all that.
Yeah.
So, so one can say that Disney's kind of missing with some of their shows.
Hit or miss. Some of them are hit or miss.
Okay. So, I mean, with all those questions kind of answered, I mean, I got a few more questions before we start wrapping it up, because I know we're hitting that corner. But so you guys don't feel like Disney's kind of coming for the original trilogy now? Because a lot of people were like, oh, they fucked up the sequel. Now they're coming back to fuck up the original trilogy.
No, I don't think anything they've done is really fucked up the original trilogy. I think it's only served to either enhance them it's served to only enhance them and to fix the fuck up of the sequel trilogy.
Basically.
Okay. Yeah, because I think maybe besides Obi-Wan, I think that's the one where they really try to tie into the original trilogy. Right? Besides Rogue One. Andor. Well, Andor not really. Andor's off on its own little spin-off thing. It's running side by side, but like to actually like, I think Boba Fett was pulled straight out of the original trilogy, and then Obi-Wan is supposed to, I mean, when they were doing interviews and shit like that for it, they were like, Showdown of the Century, rematch, Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
That fight scene was sick as fuck. I can't even like...
He pelted him with a bunch of rocks, bro. That shit was crazy.
Okay, that was sick as fuck.
Yeah, that was sick as fuck.
He T-posed and he was like...
Yeah, that was sick as fuck.
And he was just like, stop hitting me with those rocks, man.
That was basically him saying like when he got buried under that rubble, he was like, oh shit, I'm Obi-Wan fucking Kenobi. And then he came back up. He was like, Vader, guess what? I was your master. I'm still your fucking master. Take some fucking rocks.
Kick rocks, Vader.
Kick rocks.
Was the MCU type of dialogue. He's right behind me. Like...
I would say Rebels 2 kind of ties in.
Well, Rebels, Bad Batch.
Bad Batch. Do they really interact with anybody from the OG trilogy?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not that we haven't seen.
Nothing at all. So
but the Empire, technically, I mean...
Rogue One, Solo? Does Solo connect?
Solo, yeah.
Completely? Yeah, that's right, huh?
Because Solo ties in Maul.
Maul, and I mean...
That sucks that that little thing doesn't amount to anything,
I know,
but yeah.
Fucking Ray Parker flashing
But we don't know.
everywhere.
We don't know yet.
Oh, man, I feel like if they wanted to show us something, they would have showed us by now.
They can bring him back, man. Or, I hope they can, but it's a very severe offense to post your dick online for no reason. That was weird. They can get somebody else to do it, right?
I don't see why not.
I mean, it's just makeup and
it's
paint.
all makeup.
Yeah.
It's 100% makeup and whatnot. Like anybody can do it. The only the problem is like losing the staff mastery, basically.
They could train somebody. They could train some schmuck to do that. It ain't hard.
I know that fucking. I know they were like. I know it was a big deal when they brought Ray Parker back to do like the Clone Wars finale with to do like the behind the scenes of fight moves and everything. But I'm like, you're telling me you had to bring him back? Like nobody else could have mimicked what Darth Maul would have done? You know what I mean? Like it was. I felt like it was just purely like nostalgia bait kind of thing. You know what I mean? or no?
Like, I mean, why train somebody else to do all that when, you got the OG guy? Like, what? He's right there. Just use the guy.
That's true.
I
That's
mean,
fair.
why imitate the master when the master's right there?
I think that's also a tidbit for fans too, just to be like, oh, that was like the OG Maul. Like, yeah.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and we'll just ask the question real quick. Are the original trilogy better than the prequels?
Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I think overall, like as movies, yes. I think when it comes to like if you go into it and dive into specific things, like if you say lightsaber choreography, I think the prequel has it beat. I think overall as movies, like nah, the original trilogy definitely has like the prequel trilogy beat. Like I said, episode 5, best sequel of all time.
What?
I mean, it's in the books like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really argue with that.
But I don't know if it's the best. I mean, Terminator 2 is right there.
Yeah, but I think there's a realm of great sequels, and they're both in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But he's talking like goat status.
It's one of the, for its respective.
Well,
franchise.
I'm a Star Wars fan.
I don't know.
I guess okay. So let's from not a exactly as a Star Wars fan that has to be right for the franchise itself.
Well, yeah.
It has to be one of the top
If
tier
it's
movies.
if it's self-containing, then yes.
But you're thinking from like a film perspective.
Yeah. Because he said goat, and I was like, oh, well, hold up.
But we
Well,
have better.
to be
films,
fair,
yeah.
I don't really know many other sequels in films that I like as much as I liked Empire Strikes Back as a sequel. Period. So
Okay,
that's
then.
why I would say greatest of all time for
Okay.
me. It
Dead
may
Man.
not be the case, but
Dead
definitely
Man's-
one of for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, Dead Man's Chest is GOAT status too on sequels.
Okay. But yeah, no, I wouldn't. I mean, they're good. Well, now he has me like conflicted
It's just all
because I think the fourth one is kind of like the fourth. A New Hope is kind of like a dragger. Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely the cement shoes of the original trilogy. Like it weighs
Okay.
it down.
Yeah, I guess movie wise, if we're looking at it like movie wise, yeah, because it comes full circle.
Why wouldn't the movie podcast want to look at it movie wise?
Well, nah, because I was also thinking fan wise, because it's gonna be tough when the sequels come around. Because like fan wise, it's gonna be tough. But theatrically wise, yeah, thematically wise, it's more like yeah. Because even the first three, it feels more operatic in the sense of a grander scale. It doesn't feel like movies; they feel like you're watching opera.
Mm-hmm.
And then it leads into the fourth one, which again it ends and climaxes. Act 1 climaxes so well. Act 2 takes its time, which is what I'm referring to OG trilogy. These do feel like movies, so it's 4, 5, and 6. Yeah, I guess 4, 5, and 6 beat it out movie wise.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you're gonna have to put that personal shit to the side when the sequels come around because I know you get passionate.
He's gonna pull a Winchy.
Right. Which, great. We love the passion. And I mean, for me, I think I gotta give the original trilogy storytelling wise. I mean, that's why I believe like they have a lot of the Clone Wars shows and all that stuff to kind of give context and fix a lot of the things that weren't able to be conveyed in those prequel trilogies, and then obviously the storytelling that was, in my opinion, was kind of lacking. So I think the original trilogy just got, from a sheer movie making standpoint, it got to take it visually and all that stuff. Obviously, I think the prequels have it, but movie standpoint, story, writing, the feels that you get from it, it's great. It's 100% great.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one completely.
Yeah.
No.
Winchie, did you give us your take real quick?
Not yet, but I'm kind of in agreement. Like, Revenge of the Sith, I just is clearly the best movie of the prequel trilogy. And I just don't think it has enough. Like, I don't think it's weighted enough to counter like the entire original trilogy. Yeah, sure, we got like cool, fancy, graphics and whatnot, but the original trilogy is still just better. Like if they did a remake of the original trilogy with the same kind of like graphics and whatnot that you got in the sequel trilogy, you can't tell me that that wouldn't be like top tier.
No, 100%, 100%. Lucasfilm, if you're hearing this, bro, fucking give us a remaster. Give us a remaster of all these movies with like fucking crazy ass graphics. I'm pretty sure there's technology out there that could do it. I seen somebody fucking on YouTube cut up a whole edited better fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader on that like on the
Oh yeah, the SC-38.
yeah. I seen
Yeah.
that. I was like, that was pretty.
Yeah.
Oh, that was pretty clean. I mean, if some YouTubers can do it, I'm pretty sure a company with some money behind it can 100% do something like that, for sure. But with that being said, like I said, we were already rounding the bout. We thank you guys for coming back on for another episode. We hope to hear from you guys again. Obviously, we have a couple more episodes to go. So, and like I said, just bring your A game with the next one. I know that one's going to be the one where we're just going to be biting each other's heads off.
It's going to be a grudge match.
I know, it's going to be great. But if you guys have anything else to say before you guys go, I mean, the floor is yours.
Just again, thank you for having us on the show. We really enjoy getting to talk these Star Wars movies with you guys. It's always a fun time here with Film Bros, man. We enjoy the conversation and the absolutely chaotic discourse that goes about.
It's great. Winchie?
Dare to be cute. That's all I can say.
Dare to be cute.
So
Also, red means bad. I just want
Red
you to
means
know.
bad.
what?
Red means bad.
Oh yeah, red means bad. Or if you're Star Trek, it means death.
Kind of bad.
Yeah, death is kind of bad sometimes.
Sometimes.
Not in the Star Wars universe, because you don't die.
Technically.
You can get your legs cut off and be fine.
Exactly.
Or you could go down on a hut rather than losing your legs.
Oh my god.
And with that note, thank you guys for coming out. And we'll talk to you guys on the next one.